Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here to talk about another random group of 6 people here that may or may not be playing with each other on Survivor 45. And we are back here with the guy who's tapped in, who talked to all these contestants before they kicked off the biggest and grittiest season of Survivor yet. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
I'm tapping in, but I'm not tapping out anytime soon, Rob. I'm not seeing red at any point with how much I'm adoring these castaways. Yeah, I did actually see red at the time we're recording this. I did talk with him earlier in the day, so maybe I'm being facetious there.
All right, Mike, we are in it. This is our middle child here today, as yesterday.
The redheaded stepchild.
Yes. Yesterday we recorded our first tribe preview, and now we're going to talk about our second group of 6. If you missed our tribe 1 breakdown, that was very, very fun. We are going to do the same thing here today. We are going to be watching Mike's interviews recorded in the pregame with these Survivor 45 contestants. And then we'll be stopping down along the way to talk about any interesting nuggets that they drop on us here in this episode.
Plenty of nuggets. We are panning right now, and we are bringing in a whole haul with this gold mine.
A West Nail level of nuggets we're going to be getting today.
Exactly. And as long as we keep burping, we're going to do fine, because the preseason has only just begun, but it is going strong, Rob. So just to give a few disclaimers for those that missed out on last podcast, or who may not remember, because that was a 3+ hour affair. It was a lovely affair, but a long one at that. So I had the great pleasure of being able to talk, quote, face to face with these contestants this season around. So on April 15th, mere days before they started the adventure of a lifetime in the toughest season of the world's greatest game, I got to talk with them over Zoom, get their thoughts about their headspace going into playing, what they're bringing to the beach, their impressions of other people, etc. All that being said, what we're going to watch today is sort of a video edit of my Zoom conversation. That being said, due to technological restraints, there may be some awkward lulls or some quick cuts to make up for said awkward lulls that hopefully won't make you lulling. Apologies for that. There might be some times that, due to the audio circumstances of things and the way Zoom records, it might hold on this mug for an inordinate amount of time. Just push through it. You'll see their beautiful faces soon. But regardless, I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to actually have a back and forth conversation with them, because you saw this from the first 6 interviews. I really do feel like, look, you can read the bios, you can read the interviews that I do, and I think you get one impression, but I really do love the opportunity to get to actually hear their voices, see their expressions, etc., etc.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, this is a lot that we have to get to here today. So why don't we jump right in and let's start to talk about our first person. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, this podcast we're doing right now is available on our YouTube channel. And then also the uninterrupted interviews will be also posted at robbinswebsite.com/YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed there for all of our video episodes of the podcast. robbinswebsite.com/subscribe to make sure you're subscribed for everything we're doing in what is going to be the biggest season of Survivor podcasting ever.
Yes, absolutely. So, Rob,
90-minute episodes this season, Mike.
Absolutely. And we're going to provide way more than 90 minutes of podcasts.
I meant 90-minute podcasts. That's what we're doing this season.
Is that the aim? We're going to be 1 for 1?
Yeah, we're actually going to.
That's an attainable goal, I will say. Yeah, the goalposts are set. We'll see if we'll have to extend them out or back in, but always a good place to initially set the bar. We need a safe word, Rob. I want to keep going with the bird theme. Do you have a bird name that you like in particular you want to go with this time around?
Let me know what you're thinking.
Let's see. We've got woodpeckers. Could be a good one.
Okay, let's try woodpecker today.
Woodpecker. I think so.
That's a little fun. All right, woodpecker is what we're gonna say when we need to interrupt. Okay, and I feel like if we have something quick to say, we could just shout it out, especially when it's not me, because my voice isn't already talking to these people.
That's the thing. I don't know how to distinguish past Mike Bloom from present Mike Bloom from future Mike Bloom. Who knows? Maybe a third version of myself might appear on this podcast, stop us from going even further, saying something.
Maybe should you do your interjections like in an accent if you just have something quick? Like, can you do like a Cockney Mike Bloom?
Oi! I think I've got something to say now. I do.
All right,
All right,
Mike.
enough.
Let's talk about our first person we're gonna be introduced to in this podcast. That's gonna be Austin Lee Coon.
Yes, so Austin first alphabetically in the season, as well as first we'll be talking about in this podcast. Austin is originally from San Jose, California, but he currently resides in Chicago because he is a business school student at 26 years old.
Okay. All right. So let's catch up and see a little bit of what Mike had to say in his interview. Okay. Let's bring in Mike's interview with Austin.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. So stoked to be here. Super, super happy. And like, I'm ready to get the game started right now. I'm just ready to get on the sand.
All right, man. Well, before we get into the sand, we're gonna put our feet to the carpet, I guess, and talk through this interview. Well, give me like the short bio line right now. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
All right. My name's Austin Lee Coon. I'm 26 years old. I grew up in California, but I'm now an MBA student at the University of Chicago. So doing that right now in Chicago. I'm actually I think right now I'm supposed to be taking a midterm for like my supply chain management class, but I get to be ditching that to be here. I'm sure the prof will understand. So I'm feeling really good to be here. Extra good that I don't have to study.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're going to a very different type of school right now. You're about to go to the school of hard knocks when it comes to Survivor.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to learn more here, honestly. So let's see how that goes.
Well, so what has led you out here in the first place? I know you're excited to get on that sand, but what has led you to believe that you should be on that sand in the first place?
I guess, I mean, like what started me in the whole Survivor journey is really my mom. Like she's been watching ever since like the first episode. And like at first, that came out when I was like 6 or 7 or something like that. And back then, did my math wrong. I was 4 then. But back then, like I was not like huge in reality TV. I didn't really watch Survivor. Like I love playing video games.
Yeah, not a lot of 4-year-olds
watching
Survivor.
But like
mine doesn't.
I remember I came home once over Christmas break and like my mom would always be watching like, these reality TV shows and especially Survivor just like by herself in the living room. And like, one day I came back, I was like, man, it's kind of sad. Like I should just sit and watch with her. And then like instantly hooked. And I was like, this is so awesome. So I just binged everything. And like we text every single day about like Survivor strategies. We call all the time. Like this whole like process getting here has been like a shared dream. So that's really what got me here. And yeah, so I'm just super excited. I know she's super excited. She's gonna be so excited like hearing me on this podcast too. Like she's a huge fan. So like this is awesome. This is awesome.
Well, hello, Mrs. Coon. So nice to hear you. Shout outs right now for getting your boy here. So that being said, through all the watching you're doing, give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner that you would identify with the most, personally, strategically, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, I think non-winner, I'm going to go with Owen Knight. I think just came from season 43, similar kind of long-haired Asian, loves the outdoors, kind of never say die attitude. And like, it was actually kind of crazy because when I was applying for this season, like the cast announcements just came out for 43. And like, I was looking at it and I like came across Owen Knight and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, they don't even need me anymore. Like, they literally just casted me. Like, why do I even need to like submit an application? Luckily, I ended up watching the season and like, we're very different people. We just have a lot of similarities. So that was really exciting to hear. But yeah, that I would say Owen Knight, definitely the one I identify most. That's a non-winner. Winner, I gotta say, I think the winner I identify with most would probably be like Jay or a Wendell, just in terms of how they're going to be playing and how I want to play. They're seen by a lot of people as big threats, very physical, but I think the base of their game really revolves around their connections with other people, one-on-one relationships, and using that to make their threat level a little less noticeable to other people, or like, make other people be like, yeah, you're a big threat, but I still want you here because you're fun to hang out with kind of thing. So those are the two that I feel like I'll try emulating a little bit out there.
Woodpecker. Yeah. What? Who now? He said Jay.
I thought he said Jay. I don't know if this is another Jag Red situation where we have to read lips to figure it out. I tried to review the footage as much as I could, and every time I thought I heard Jay. And I'm not sure to whom he's referring, unless he's referring to Jay
Adam?
Starrett.
Do you think that Adam?
Well, he's saying that he wants to be somebody who is like a little physically imposing, but whose social skills bring down that threat level, with no offense to the dear Adam Klein, I don't think that's necessarily him.
Jeremy? Is Jeremy J?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I think J. Maybe he meant J, the letter J. He's just
Mhm.
referring to him on such an intense level.
Yeah,
with
I've
him. They have
never
a really nice
heard
relationship.
anybody called Jeremy J, but that would make sense. That would track.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
they have a relationship where he is able to call Jeremy J and nobody else.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I've seen that you submitted before talking with me, I mean, it seems like you kind of described yourself as a bit of a chameleon, right? You talk about how you could be this adventurous hippie one minute and then like the anime lover the next minute. You talk about going to Australia and then DC and Indiana. Like you feel like you have done so many things over the course of your life. Has that just given you a natural adaptability that you hope to bring to the game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you look at me now and I was nothing like this, like even like 10, 12 years ago or something like that. Like, I feel like I was a shell of my current self. Like I was very introverted. I was very quiet. I was very scared of doing things like even like raising my hand in class, like would petrify me kind of thing. And then like slowly and surely I started, moving to new places, trying new experiences and just like kind of like building up my own confidence. And then, ultimately led me to get here. But I think like living that entire like introversion, extroversion spectrum has like made me a more empathetic person. And because of that, I can connect with someone who just wants to like sit in the room, play video games and not talk to a single person for like 8 hours because I've been there. And I can also, talk with the people who want to just go out and have a good time and, party too, because I've also been there.
What's your favorite moment in Survivor history?
Okay. I can think of two moments. The first one is Heroes versus Villains, the very first challenge where Coach just demoralizes Colby in that challenge. I thought that was hilarious because Colby's like carrying Coach over and Coach like looking at his tribe being like, like just wait. And then like at the end, Colby's all tired. He just carries him over, gets the point, and then like Colby's kind of ruined for the rest of the season from that. I just thought that was hilarious. Big Coach fan.
Woodpecker.
Second one.
Yes.
This was recorded in April of 2023. Just a reminder to everybody out there. April 2023 was when Austin said that he was a big fan of Coach.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the carbon dating here on this. Okay. All right.
I really loved it. I remember watching All Stars and just like that whole story with Rob and Amber was like super awesome. And that was like kind of a dream. It's like, man,
so awesome.
Maybe one day I'll find my Amber out there on the island. Like that'd be so cool. So like that was a really cool moment. So I think those two are my favorite moments on Survivor.
Now, is that an intention you have carried over to this day? I mean, listen, the Matt and Franny of it all, I have to ask.
It's not really an intention, more so, go with the flow, whatever happens, open to it. But I'm definitely not looking for it because at the end of the day, it's about the $1 million. It's about the title. Anything else is extra.
Woodpecker. Yeah.
So like, can we, let's give a percentage chance right now, Rob. Percentage chance that Austin leaves the show in a showmance.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that we went for a long stretch, and I feel like that, Survivor, it's a copycat sort of game, and I feel like that Matt and Franny had the showmance. I think it's going to be very much on people's minds. These players also, I think this is an important distinction. So they left probably right before Matt got voted out of the game.
Yes,
and so,
I believe actually the episode of Matt leaving the game had aired a few days before they talked to me, and they had not seen that because of travel.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that might be like an interesting distinction of that they did not necessarily know, like that was on people's minds, but maybe it's like, hey, this might be a good thing having a showmance on Survivor. Talks about Rob and Amber. Could be. Yeah. So I'll say 30%.
Yeah, I'm going to give it like 30, 35% if I want to be promiscuous about it, much like Austin. I mean, listen, as much as toothpaste is a luxury on Survivor, the toothpaste cannot be put back in the tube when it comes to this. Now, like you said, it's been a while. Not since the days of Figtails have we really discussed this. And this is something that I think is going to be very top of mind. So I think, Rob, you and I are going to have to be a bit of a yenta here, try to matchmake perhaps with Austin and some other people who are single and ready to mingle in Survivor 45.
All right, let's see as we'll meet the rest of this group of 6. All right.
I'm definitely not looking for it because at the end of the day, it's about the $1 million. It's about the title.
But I'm definitely not looking for it.
So I got to get into perception with you because you talk about, right, this like Pally Surfer vibe. You talk about, again, this internal ability to like morph yourself into any environment. How do you think the people out here on your tribe are going to perceive you initially?
I think it's hard not to look at me and be like, woo, or, Ozzy or something like that. And that's fine with me. I'm happy if people look at me and they immediately assume a woo or, character like that, because those players are known for their physical ability, sometimes their social ability, but none of them are really known to be strategists. And I think that's kind of something that I'll be bringing into the game that people aren't going to be aware of. And I'm going to try underplaying that because I can't hide my physical strength, can't really hide talking to people, but I'll be able to hide sort of the strategy going behind the scenes.
Woodpecker. Mike, we already have new casts. We have new Woo, and is it possible? Is new Tony out there?
We'll get into it. New Tony might be on his very tribe, though. I think Caleb has some Tony instincts to him.
Okay.
In my opinion, he probably has the most Tony energy. Though we might get into someone that has at least some similar characteristics. I mean, yeah, he has the look to him. He has the physique. I think in definitely talking with him, you get this very, I wouldn't say lackadaisical quality in him, but
Yeah.
very laid back. I think very easygoing, which is what
Yeah,
Wu
and
brought
he
as
knows
well.
the show a lot, but with all due respect to Woo, Woo was not, texting his mom about different seasons of the show.
Yeah, I don't think Wu would cite the opening challenge of Survivor Heroes versus Villains at all. While we're stopped here, Rob, I do want to pique your thoughts about this whole introvert extrovert thing.
Yeah.
That if you look in his 1 minute video, we have some file photos of a very different looking Austin. He says in his bio about how when he was growing up, he had terrible acne, he wore braces, including headgear, he had mild
Mhm.
Tourette's, he was extremely self conscious. And he says, okay, listen, I'm a kind of a blade type of daywalker, if you will. I lived in the shadows and now I live in the light. Do you think that is going to allow him to kind of bond with as many people as he possibly can with different personality styles?
Yeah, I mean that. Look, we all love a he's all that type
Hmm.
situation, and I think
Less
that
so the Netflix movie, but yeah.
yes. So yeah, I feel like that was Malcolm also, of somebody who was sort of Malcolm is probably the best example that I could cite of that he was kind of like the introverted, probably self-described, I don't know if Malcolm would self-describe as a geek, but geek
No, he
adjacent
wouldn't be. He
certainly.
wouldn't be living in Dweeb City, that's for sure.
Right. And so, but then, sometimes, and then you're able to also be able to then get along with sort of the more athletic types also, because they see you as one of their own. But then you also have the ability to vibe on the level of the people that aren't the super athletic types.
Yeah, I do think that Austin is someone who's going to be able to ingratiate himself early on. I would be so bold, Rob, as to say that Austin will be one of the safest players in the game for at least the first third, just
Yeah.
because not only of his athleticism, but just the general vibe about him. And I do agree. I think he could endear to people really easily early on by being like, I thought you were one thing. And oh, you love Naruto. You love all these other things. You're an inner nerd at heart. That's what you grew up being. I think being able to show both sides of himself works really well from there. And if he makes it to the end, also serves as a fantastic story in and of itself.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to Austin.
You talk about physical strain in terms of the prep level that you had going into this. Was there anything in particular you did once you found out you'd be here today in the months leading up to this?
Oh my gosh. I've been training for this for years, but I guess just
Wow.
looking at the past couple months, I mean, I did a 60-hour fast. That was one thing. I was my classmates are like, why are you fasting for so long? You're crazy. I'm like, just
Don't
want
worry
to see if
about
I can do it. Obviously can't tell them that I'm going to be here. I've been working out twice a day. I've been playing hockey, boxing, volleyball. A couple years ago when my dream of being on Survivor was starting to really peak and carried over to now, I did a 230-mile backpacking trip in the John Muir Trail. So started at the base of Yosemite. I climbed to the top of Half Dome, and then I backpacked with 40 pounds on my back, 230 miles to Mount Whitney, and I climbed that. And the entire time I was thinking about Survivor, how I'd win it. And it was just, it was just sort of a Zen moment, just thinking about Survivor, being this is what I got to do. I got to just be prepared. I got to do whatever I can, and I got to crush it once I'm there.
Let's talk about your competition a bit. What characteristics do you want in an alliance partner, ideally?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they talk about, I want someone who's loyal to me and all that. Obviously that's a given. I think what I'm really looking for is someone who will laugh with me, who's fun to hang out with. Laughter is truly the key to my heart. So if we're vibing and we're laughing together, then I know we'll be able to trust each other. We'll be able to make some moves together. So laughter, that's the number one thing. Make me laugh and I'm yours.
Interesting. So obviously you have a period of time right now where like you can't talk with your competition, but like you can certainly get impressions. Is there anyone in particular, like describe to me some people that you are, making eye contact with that you're thinking either, okay, this is someone that if we draw the same buff, best case scenario, or if they're describe to me some people that you're like, okay, red flag, I'm writing your name down as soon as I get the opportunity.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of those for both those categories. I think though, like this is kind of the perfect season for me. I talk about laughter being the key to my heart, and I'm like looking around, and I can tell that this cast has got more than a couple goobers, like myself included. It's gonna be hilarious. I think it'll be an all-time funny season. Like just like sensing the vibes of people. Obviously, we can't talk, but like you can feel that like funny energy coming from people. There's this other guy with like long hair, like brown long hair. Like, I would love to work with him. We could be like the Flow Bros or something. And just like, he seems like a really funny dude. Definitely big green flags from him.
That's Brandon, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. There's one guy, big afro. And I could tell
Caleb.
He's someone who's going to be playing all sides. Like he's smiling at looking at everybody. And it just like, you can't talk, but you can tell that he's like, he's making his rounds, trying to get as much eye contact as possible with everybody versus other people. They're a little more selective. So it's like, I feel like I can trust them a little bit better. So those are just a couple right off the bat.
Let me present you with a couple of scenarios. Let's say a boat shows up to your camp. We're in the pre-merge, you're hanging out with your tribe. A guy gets off the boat and says, okay, as a tribe, you got to pick one person to go on a journey. Now, these could be good things. There could be bad things that come with this. What is your strategy? Are you volunteering? Are you going to try to get someone else to go? How are you approaching that?
Oh man, I think that's a case-by-case basis. I could see a lot of different outcomes. I could definitely volunteer in the sense that like, I feel in the early game is when players like me have the most power in the sense that we are least likely to be voted off really early in the game. So making big moves early on to maybe like pad myself, give myself a little protection when the merge starts coming. I could see myself doing that. I think for the most part, I'd want to, send out one of my closest allies. So keep the target a little bit off me, but keep it close enough where they'll tell me whatever they get kind of thing. And, drawing rocks, that's worst comes to worst, but still a fine outcome, I think.
Woodpecker. Yeah, it's interesting, Mike. I think that going back to season 44, I feel like that Brandon might have like been thinking the same way in terms of like going after the idol in the bird cage. And it's like, hey, I'm like a big, strong guy. Maybe this is when I have my most power in the game. But I do feel like that did not work out for him. I wonder if maybe the more athletic players should not be trying to press their advantage so early in the game. I guess are people never gonna forget about them? Like, what do you think these big guys should be doing early in the game?
Well, I think the issue is you can certainly do that. I love this idea of, okay, I sort of have the most equity at the moment. Let me try to invest my capital some more. I'm no Emily, so I might be using some wrong parlance here. But the idea of like, let me secure more of a future for myself at the time when I would be most vulnerable in the time that I am least vulnerable. I think you can't be upfront about it, though. One of the problems with Brandon was he found the birdcage idol, but it was right next to somebody else who then said, okay, Brandon, we had this secret and you sort of ruined it. Now I'm going to target you. Something like stepping up for a journey, I think, is another example of being overt, of saying, bye-bye, I want to go to this island where I'm probably going to get something and I may or may not lie to you about it. And so I think that is distinctly different than just like what Carolyn does, that example of just hunting through the jungle and finding things more secretively, something that Danny did. I think Danny's another good example, right? Of this like prototypical alpha male who is in a very secure position, tries to secure something more once they get to the merge. And I think if Austin goes a bit more in the Danny approach and is more subtle with it, which he could be given his more laid back personality, I think it's something you can get away with.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to Austin.
Outside of even the journey stuff, how are you planning to handle like the advantage game of it all? Especially, you're just coming off a season, right, where you're seeing like, oh, your idol that you find might not even be real. How eager will you be to hunt for things in the jungle while you're trying to play the rest of Survivor?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The advantages and the idols of this modern day Survivor are both like terrifying, but also extremely exciting. Cause it's like, I feel like for strategists, people who are able to play a fluid game, like these advantages that come in, if you're able to make the pivots in time, like it could be a benefit for your game. But I think my strategy in terms of advantages, I really want to go into the merge with some sort of advantage, some sort of safety, because I know once we clash together, it's like, there might be a tribe where 2 people go off. We're split into 2 groups and like 1 from each of them go off. And like when that happens, you've seen it in past recent seasons, the big guys like me, they get picked off. So having any sort of protection during those moments, I think would be really, really helpful for me. And I'll definitely be trying to find some stuff.
Give me your greatest superpower and your greatest piece of kryptonite in life and how that might apply to the game.
Man, greatest superpower and greatest kryptonite. I think superpower, going back to just like living that whole kind of chameleon thing, a bunch of different lifestyles. I think I am a lot more sensitive and empathetic for someone who might look like me, like big and strong and stuff. Like, you might think of me as like a surfer bro or a meathead. You might not know just how sensitive I am. At the same time, I feel like that's also a kryptonite for the game, because it's like the one thing I'm really nervous about is sort of getting actually genuinely really connected with people and then having to cut them off. I already thought about like, if my tribe loses first immunity and like we have to vote someone off, that's going to be a heartbreaker, sending someone home for the first time. And it's just like, that's something I don't think I can really be prepared for. I just have to be ready to suck it up when the time comes. And I hope I can. I think I can, but we'll see.
What is your hottest Survivor take? What do you think is your most controversial opinion about a season, the show, a player, etc.?
Okay. I think Philip Shepard is an A-tier player. I love Philip
Okay.
Shepard.
All
I
right.
think it's awesome,
Spicy.
and I would have loved to play with him, but I know he's not everybody's cup of tea.
You're not just jockeying for a nickname, are you? That you're going to come out and you're going to be called the chameleon from him?
Okay. I also would love a nickname. Like that's something on my Survivor bucket list that I can't get unless I play with him. So Philip, please, let's play together. Let's do this.
Oh, well, last thing, and maybe this will segue to what you just answered. If you could bring a celebrity or a fictional character out as your loved one for a loved one's visit, who would it be and why?
It plays a little, but it's not Philip. It's actually Coach. One of the,
Woodpecker.
coaches above
Yep.
Philip, I think. Like the
This
Dragon
was
Slayer,
recorded in April of
We got it.
2023.
We got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to restate that.
Mm-hmm.
they're like my first and like favorite character of all time. Like I love him, pure comedy. I think it would be a kind of a pain to work with him, but having him come over for a little bit, give me a little coaching advice, I think that would be pretty awesome. Worst comes to worst, it'll be a good laugh and something to, tell stories about, because he truly is like the biggest legend in my mind.
Would you accept the title of assistant coach? Would you let him stretch you out to get you ready for the latter portion of the game?
I would do anything I would take the title of assistant coach over a name by Philip Shepard. Yeah. I like that would be amazing. And like,
all right.
Yeah.
I would share that with Tyson. I'm fine. Like, I would love to be coach of the assistant coach. That would be awesome.
All right, well, man, listen, I'm ready for you to slay over these next 26 days. I'm so pumped for you. It seems like you really just have a great sense of things, positivity, yet like self-introspection, and I really hope it turns out well for you at the end of the day. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I'm really looking forward to what comes next for you.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor. My mom is going to be so happy for that shout out you gave earlier. It's going to make her day. She's going to save this, download it, I'm sure. So thank you again. Can't wait to talk to you later.
Okay. Hopefully not too soon. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for downloading it, Mrs. Coon. We always appreciate the clicks.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow, that Austin would have really loved the original Survivor South Pacific premise, which I believe was going to be Coach versus Philip. And Philip did not want to come back so quickly.
If people felt like Izzy is such an acolyte of Saray in the Big Brother house, Austin would put her to shame. I think, you have Christine and Stacy saying in there like, they're temporary players. I think Austin would throw them in the ocean. He would do anything to play with those two. But that's really interesting as well, is that, again, you look at this guy and you would imagine, okay, if you bring out a Survivor player as your celebrity loved one, who is it? He's like, yeah, probably Ozzy, probably Woo. I feel like we have a lot to bond over. But no, this is picking some of like the biggest, goofiest characters in Survivor history, some of the biggest comedic relief. And so I feel like he is a complicated person. I think that's really going to help him from an interpersonal perspective, as someone, again, who I think is going to endear himself early on. I mean, I think Austin very much has this spirit of like the jock with a heart of gold. he arguably, I think, is the most athletic person on this cast. He has a voluminous amount of experience. He briefly mentioned it, but he does it more in his bio. He made the Junior Olympics in volleyball when he was 15 years old. He's technically an Olympian. So I do think that between that athletic ability, but also the fact that he does seem so down to earth and perhaps to his discredit, as he mentions, has a really soft heart as well. I think he's going to do really well with worming into some key relationships during this first portion of the game. And when it gets to that kind of murkier middle stage, if he's able to have enough numbers combined with hopefully an advantage or two in his pocket, I think he could make a deep slice into it.
Okay, let's bring in our second person from this group. Okay, Mike, we're going to talk about Dee next. Anything you want to set up here about Dee?
So Dee Valladares, also at 26 years old. Who knows? Perhaps Austin showman's
Okay.
partner. We shall see. A to D, perhaps. Dee is from Miami, Florida, though she was born in Havana, Cuba. And she is an entrepreneur, as we've mentioned before. She started her own backpack company, which I believe is called Wanna Roam, is the name of it. WANAROAM. So if you're in the market for a backpack, feel free to take a look. I wouldn't be surprised if Dee was giving her own Shark Tank pinch alongside her final tribal council speech.
Okay. All right. Let's bring in Mike's conversation here with Dee. Here we go. All right. Here is Dee.
Hi,
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. What's your name?
I'm Mike Bloom. I'm with Parade / Rob Has a Podcast, trying to represent
Come on,
both.
Dee.
And who might I be
Awesome.
talking with today?
My name is Dee. I listen to your podcast at home.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to meet
good to
you
meet
and to put the face
Nice
to the
meet
name.
you. Yes.
How are you doing right now?
I'm thriving. I'm excited to start.
You're thriving. That's such an
I'm
interesting word.
thriving.
What is it? Is it just like, because I know you're from Florida, is it just like the tropical weather? Is it the idea of the game? What makes you feel that mood right now?
Honestly, a little bit of everything. I feel like I'm at home here. You know, it's the humidity, the palm trees, the water. I love being next to the ocean. Like, to me, that's just, it's like a meditation. Like, it's my form of meditation, working out and being next to the water. So that's why I'm thriving. Yeah, I feel good here.
So what is your career? I know you're an entrepreneur, but what do you specialize in?
Yeah, so I've like dabbled in a lot of different things. Like growing up, I went to school for psychology, but then I found out like they didn't make much money. So I'm like,
Whoa.
I gotta do something else.
Don't
And
tell me
then
that.
I did retail sales my entire life. Then I went to pharmaceutical sales. Then I went into tech sales, and then I started my own business, my own backpack company, because I love to travel. So it's just like that niche, the travel community.
Now, I am hearing sales a lot. Is that something you plan on
Uh-oh.
bringing to
Don't
the
tell
game?
Cody.
That just natural ability to convince people to do what you want?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that I don't plan on telling people that I've done in the past. Like, I'm just gonna say that I have my backpack company because it is not a lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want anyone to. Anytime you hear the word sales or sell, like people just automatically turn off, and I don't want that to happen. But yeah, definitely. I think life in general, you're just selling yourself in every opportunity, right? So that's how I'm gonna play the game. Just gonna sell myself.
Yeah. So what caused you to sit in front of me today? Why are you here on Survivor?
This is crazy. I started watching Survivor in 2020. Like, I can't say I started watching it from day number one. Well, obviously I wasn't born yet, but 2020, my best friend was
She's
like,
definitely
"Dee, you
born.
should watch the show. You'd really like it." I just started binge watching everything, and I became a super fan. I started then going back to the older episodes, and I'm like, "Oh, this is who Boston Rob is. This is who Sandra is." And then I just started watching everything. I started just getting attached, to be honest. And like, I remember like when I first saw the first season, I was like, I would cry. I would literally cry when I would see the family visits, because I knew I would be on Survivor before I knew I would be on Survivor, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I knew it innately. I felt it. And that's why I'm here. Cause I want to take care of my family. First of all, and obviously we all want to win the $1 million. So want my family to be taken care of. And I also want to inspire people to kind of like go out there and do things that scare them. And this scares me. Like, if someone says this doesn't scare them, they're lying.
So can you give me, because you've watched so much Survivor, in the past few years, give me a Survivor winner and then give me a non-winner who you identify with the most.
Great question. Survivor winner that I identify with. Let me think. I love Sandra. She's Puerto Rican. I'm Cuban. So she has a little hustle in her, a little feistiness in her. She also has like, I don't give a shit attitude, which I love, which I need to get better at. So looking at her, that thing about her, I'm like, damn, I want that. You know, I see that little bit of me, but I have to like tweak it a little bit. As far as non-winner, I'll say one of the most recent ones, Jesse. I love Jesse. I was rooting for Jesse. Like when he lost that fire, I was like, damn, that's so sad. And I think I relate to him a lot because his reason why he came on the show to begin with, his wife and his, I don't know if it was a daughter. I think it was a daughter or son. I don't remember. But the reason why he was here on Survivor primarily is because of his family. And like throughout the show, you just watch him like you just watched him be himself, be just a cool dude, like very normal, chill, cool dude. And you can tell like every episode, like his family was in mind. And that's how I'm going to go into the game. And that's why I feel like I relate to both of them in those ways.
So I know you mentioned the family visits before. Is that your favorite moment in Survivor history? Do you have another favorite moment?
Yes. Oh my God, of course. Family visit to me is number one. I feel like it's one thing to watch the show and it's another thing to be like sitting here getting interviewed by you and like everyone. And it just, honestly, it feels surreal. And to imagine one of my family members coming, it just like, man. And for my parents, like they left everything behind in Cuba to bring my brother and I into the United States for a better future. It's like, wow, man, this is like the moment, you know, like this is why you guys left everything, the familiarity of their culture, their language, like everything, like no money. They came to the United States not knowing English, had to hustle multiple jobs just to have a plate of food on the table for my brother and I. And like, you know, my brother and I are so grateful for that. And it just feels like I'm giving back to them in a sense, you know, and like, I know that they're proud of me no matter what, but just for them to like travel to Fiji in itself is like, Mom, you're here in Fiji.
That is amazing. What has your prep been like?
So initially when I got the email back of like, hey, send in your submission, I started prepping right then and there. I did not wait for them to tell me you're in. I was like, I'm in already. Like I got the email. I'm going to do my best in every interview and I'm going to go on Survivor. But luckily my prep physically, it's a lifestyle. Like I love to do CrossFit and I love to work out and just be in the outdoors. We don't have mountains in Miami, obviously. So I'll just like, you know, I'll do CrossFit, wake surf. I just do anything that skates. So physically it's been a lifestyle already, but I think my prep has been more mental than anything else. Obviously I've prepped for fires. Like I never started a fire before in my life, but I know how to do that now. I did not prep for fishing because I'm like, somebody's gonna know how to fish. And obviously survival instincts will kick in. I'll learn then. I like the smell of fish anyway. But I think more than anything else, it's just been mental. I've been like researching. Rob has a podcast. Every podcast on Spotify I've listened to. I've also listened to a lot of winners interviews and kind of like learning from their mistakes. I feel like obviously it's been 23 years of Survivor. The people that have played are the people that have the best advice, right? The people that have already been through what I'm about to go through. So that's been my biggest prep.
Woodpecker, incredibly valid. F my drag, right? Yeah, I think it's really valid. And Caleb brought up this idea as well. The idea of going back and specifically listening to the winners interviews. I would say maybe try to widen the breadth of scope a little bit. I'd say the runner-up interviews, I think, are also very valuable to talk about like their own perspective as to why they lost in a manner of speaking. Rob, I don't know. Maybe it's just the romantic in me. I really want Deeston to happen now. I'm thinking about Dee talked about how she loves to be outdoors. She wished she could climb mountains. Austin's telling that story about how he did that 230-mile hike through Yosemite, talking about how he wanted to be on Survivor. I want to make it happen.
Yeah, you know what? I want to make happen like a podcast feed of all the winner interviews, like that. Maybe Sam, let's put that on our project list of let's take all of the winner interviews because this is the second time that's come up, and then let's start a new podcast feed, and then we'll put that out there, and then okay, this is like all of the winner interviews like post game.
Yeah, winners on pod.
Yeah. Okay, what do you think of that? Good
I think
idea?
it's a good idea. Listen, it's a nice fast track for future Survivor players. Like, I'm going to be talking to the 47 cast. They'll be like, well, thank you, Rob, for sending the hyperlink.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. The winner. We'll come up with a good name for it. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Have already been through what I'm about to go through. So that's been my biggest prep.
Yeah, that's incredibly valid. What is one life experience you feel like has prepared you most for what you're about to jump feet first into?
Man, it's hard to say one life experience, obviously, because Survivor, you bring in so many life experiences, but I'll
Right.
definitely say starting my business with my business partner 3 years ago, it's prepared me because first of all, I've learned a lot about myself and how to be a better business partner and how I say things, how I approach things, what I like in somebody else to tell me how to do things, or just kind of like you always, when you're in a partnership, you gotta like be on the same page all the time, right? You have to have the same vision, be on the same page, and then you can have disagreements. It's taught me how to like learn to not take things personally. Like nothing is ever personal. People don't do things as like a screw you, rather more like a pro me. I've not take things personally. And I've just learned how to connect with people. I feel like I've already had that innately, but just learning how to sell this backpack that we have. How can we sell this to people? How can we use our story, the story to get it out there and sell, and once we do sell it, how can we make them appreciate the fact that they spent their hard-earned money in our product, like, so it's a lot of little things, but I would say that definitely prepared me to be here on Survivor.
Yeah, you talk about business partners. When it comes to alliance partners, are you
Good segue,
seeking like
Mike. Oh, thank you.
similar characteristics that you do in your business partner? Are you looking for different things? What do you seek out in hopefully a number one or ride or die?
You're such a great interviewer. I love
See?
your
Oh,
question.
thank you. I'll be your
Wow,
number
this-
one now with that amount of flattery.
Oh,
Move over, Austin.
funny. I would definitely say I gravitate towards people that I feel that are just authentically themselves and are honest. I've said it before, like you don't get far in this game by yourself. You need alliance partners, and I want someone who stays true to their word. And I know it's like hard to say because we're on Survivor and you're not always going to stay true to your word, but someone that in the beginning stages stays true to their word to get you to a certain point, and then once that happens, we'll cross the line then. But someone that I can read, obviously. If there's someone that's like too erratic and obviously like always like here and there and just running around, like I can't trust someone like that because obviously I can't read them. So yeah.
Well, now let's flip the reading back onto you. How do you think people are
Yeah.
going to perceive you in this game?
I think being from Miami, I think people will perceive me as like this prissy, like pretty face, doesn't like to get dirty, or just kind of like likes to party maybe, since like when you first hear Miami, that's the first thing you think about. Don't get me wrong, I do like to party sometimes. Like to have fun. But I think that they'll be shocked by like how much substance I can bring, and like just because I'm from like a city that everyone knows and all the rappers rap about, like I'm really not like that
Will
like
Smith.
stereotype of like Miami women, which whatever that stereotype is, like good for you, like nobody cares, right? But yeah, I think people will perceive me as like someone that just doesn't get dirty. But I don't care. I'm not here to be clean. I'm not here to look pretty. I'm here to win the $1 million.
When it comes to perceptions, the people you're looking around at right now, right? Your competition,
This is
your
my
friends
favorite
and
part.
enemies for the next 26 days. Just based off first impressions, is there anyone you're eyeballing as like, that's someone I want to work with if we draw the same buff? Or is there anyone that you're like, giant red flag, cannot work with them if I'm next to them?
Yeah. I've said this before, but the person that obviously stands out is Bruce because he's back. So it makes me think like, all right, he's likable. They asked him to come back for a reason, right? So it makes me think like, all right, what is that reason? Like, I want to get to know him. And he also has a calming presence about him. Like, he reminds me a lot of my dad. I turned Bruce into my uncle and he doesn't even know it yet.
Unk.
So I definitely say Bruce is one of them. I also like the dude with like the long hair and he has like his button down open. I don't know if he has it open in the interviews, but he seems like such a funny guy that I can relate to, even though like obviously we haven't spoken. But I know he just seems like a laid back dude who doesn't care about much. And then someone that stands out to me as someone that is a red flag. Let me say. I feel bad, but let's say it. I would definitely say the tall, skinny white guy. The tallest person here. But I don't say it because of my perception of him. I think it's more of like the energy that I got from him, because he still hasn't like looked me directly in the eyes.
That might be a height thing.
No, I swear I've tried. I've been like, look at me. And I don't think he does it to me. It's not personal. He doesn't do it just to me. I think he's like that. I've like kind of looked at around, and he doesn't make eye contact with anyone. But you know, for me, I think those are the people you need to watch out for, because they're so introverted that it's hard to like get things out of them. And like you never know what their next move will be. So those are the people that are just not as like, I don't know if they're not having fun or they're just nervous, but gotta let that go.
Let me put a scenario in front of you. So let's say you're on your tribe, you're on the beach, a boat pulls up and says, you got to pick one person to go on a journey. Are you volunteering for it? Are you trying to throw someone? Because we've seen, you know, the positives and negatives that come with it. How are you handling that situation?
Yeah. I think in the beginning, I will not volunteer because the beginning stages, they're so crucial in your game. Like you need to be around people because it's obvious, we know what happens then. I won't throw anyone under the bus because that puts a target on my back. I would never want to throw anyone under the bus and have them feel resentment towards me. And that might be the only thing that they say, like, I want to get her out because she feels like she couldn't have me here. I will not volunteer. I would step back and let someone else lead in that moment. Like I can date back to elementary where I remember we would get lined up to be like line leaders, but it was like alphabetically, and I was always in the back of the line because my last name started with a V. And I remember back then I'd be like, damn, why am I in the back of the line? I want to be a line leader. But I see myself as a leader, but I also see in moments like that, it's okay to step back and let somebody else lead. So in that moment, I will not, I won't go to the island, not at first.
What about advantages in general? Even if they're outside of the journey, are you hunting for them? Are you seeking them out?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to hunt and seek them out. I think you have to take risks in Survivor, whether it's in the beginning or at the end. And for advantages for me, I'll be a little bit more risk because I can keep that to myself. You know, I going to another island, I can't keep that to myself. Everyone knows I'm going to the other island, and then they know that I may come back lying. But advantages, I can find it and I can keep it to myself, and that I'm okay risking that and going out and searching for that. That's fun.
Last thing I want to ask. So you talked about how much you love the loved ones visit. I'm going to put you in one right now, but your loved one has to be either a celebrity or a fictional character. Who would you pick and why? Okay.
Let's go with a celebrity. I would pick Dwayne Johnson.
Oh,
I think The Rock. Oh, I love him. I grew up watching like WWE
ready to go to
with
rocks.
my brother. So I've known him for like years since I was like so little. My brother would like press slam me onto his bed. But I'd pick The Rock because he's one of like the big, like the top tier celebrities, and he's so humble. Like there's something about The Rock that people are just gravitated towards, and like you'll see him doing videos all the time where he meets like fans and he's like telling them hey, and like, you know, he walks into the room and like he dominates with his presence, obviously because he's like 6'something and big as hell. But yeah, I love him. I think he does a lot for the community, and you can tell he is such a family man. And yeah, I would love to meet The Rock. That'd be so cool. I would love to give him a hug and be like all small next to him. Like, oh, I love you.
And hopefully not get the people's elbow. Hopefully not get chokeslammed in the process.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, there you go.
I had only a couple references to The Rock in wrestling. And for some reason I pulled out the people's elbow.
Yes. Okay. There's Dee. I mean, Dee seems super nice. Seems like she's a lot of fun. I'm going to say, though, I'm a little worried about in terms of her being like cutthroat, where when she doesn't even want to, you know, doesn't seem comfortable even telling you who she's getting a bad vibe from in preseason interview. to me, I'm just a little worried. Like she's like seems so sweet. She's so nice.
She's sweet
Is
Dee.
is she ready for, how just like, how mean this game could get?
I do agree with that because she comes in with such a sense of positivity. And I do feel like that's a vibe. It's sort of like hot and cold with this cast, I think delightfully so, where you have someone like Sean and someone like Dee, who's just like so warm, so friendly. And then you have perhaps people on the other side of that, admittedly, in Emily and Hannah as an example. But I think Dee is going to have a great amount of sociability. I mean, that is her career, right? Is consistently interfacing with people. But I agree. My main concern with her is like, can she make necessary moves to win the game, not necessarily get far? Dee is someone I really go back and forth about. I think a lot of the skills that she has means she'll go at least pretty far. She is athletic. She does CrossFit like as a hobby. So I think she's someone that they would want to keep around. Again, she is also super friendly. She says she wants to lead, but I think she's more than happy to, like, as she mentioned, step back at times in order to let others step up. And so I think she's going to get into a good place. But when you get to that juncture point at like the mid-merge, final 7, final 6, is she capable to do what people like Marianne were able to do, which is to weaponize almost that happy-go-lucky aspect? Sweet Dee might learn it's not always sunny in Fiji.
Mike, we heard Dee talk about somebody who did not make eye contact. Somebody who was referred to as what? Lanky Blanky?
Lanky Blanky, Dweeb City. He's been mentioned a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's finally hear from this man that's so tall that maybe he can't see eye to eye with the other players. Let's bring in Drew Basile. What do you want to tell us about Drew?
So Drew is one of the younger cast members this season. He is 23 years old, originally from Birmingham, Michigan, but currently resides in Philadelphia as he is a recent graduate from the University of Pennsylvania. What's interesting is that in his 1-minute video from CBS, he does mention that he's on his way to Oxford and he is labeled in his lower third as a grad student. So it seems like he graduated from UPenn this summer and is now going to Oxford, I think is what the transitional phase is. He'll get more into the humanities that he studies later on, but as he'll talk about, he's very much at this precipice in life that despite the fact he's moving across the pond, he basically went the opposite direction to go to Fiji.
Okay. All right. Let's bring in your conversation here with Drew. And here we go.
How you doing, man? Nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Listen, it's a familiar voice. I usually, imbibe the podcast in audio form, but it's great to be among one of the greats, the great Survivor media personas.
Yes, I'm uglier in person. I know.
Oh, come on. Don't talk about my friend Mike like that.
Give me your deets, man. Give me the bio line. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. So I'm very open about who I am.
His voice.
It's all on the front cover. My name is Drew Basile. I'm 22 years old from Birmingham, Michigan. I'm a student at the University of Pennsylvania. This is my last semester wrapping up here. I love the show. I started watching Philippines 25, really Karamoan 26. Cochran was a major inspiration for me. I'm sure you and other people will draw the comparison. But if I started out Cochran, I've really made moves to build myself more into somebody who is charismatic, personable, all of that.
Yeah, Woodpecker. When are you about to receive your degree in?
So,
yeah, a little bit of low-key shade on Cochran, I would say.
Yeah. I went from, the being Cochran to being personable.
Yeah, but in his 1-minute video, at least, he does save a bit more face. I think he says that Cochran went from mathlete to millionaire, which is a fantastic phrasing.
Okay. All right. Back to Drew.
At UPenn, which is an Ivy, it's not Harvard, but it's an Ivy. I study English and philosophy. So I'm in the books. I'm in the library. I don't get out much to the gym, for example. But what I do work on is like really dense stuff. I'm talking like modernist epic, door stoppers, Kant, Hegel, things like that. So it's not the easy A humanities. Like it's real, like rigorous, logical work. And so I think that kind of analytical framework for like remembering all of these details and historical comparisons and like how do things change? I do think that way of thinking, that schematic, kind of cognition is something that a lot of people might not have practiced that could help me out in a game like Survivor, where there are so many moving pieces, so many variables, so many things that change in time. So
yeah, 100%. So that being said, not only I guess while I ask, why Survivor, but why Survivor now? Because you're in your last semester of college, and we certainly have seen people in school come onto these shows and do well in various capacities. What made you feel like now was the good time to do the show for you?
This now is when they gave me the call, and anytime they called, I would come, to be clear. But now is an interesting time because I actually had to defer my graduation to be here, right? I had to drop classes. I'm going to do stuff in the summer. Hopefully we'll be on time, relatively speaking. But in a more broad, scope, right now is an excellent time to play Survivor because it is a pivot. It is a hinge. It is a hinge between my academic career, which even though you're an adult in college, I still consider it basically childhood, and the rest, career, family, old age, demise. So
Demise.
I've spent a lot of time building my.
Is that past later days? Is demise?
I think so. I mean, later days leads to no days, I suppose. Yeah, I love Drew. Drew has such an interesting way of vocalizing things, again, from mathlete to millionaire, and hear him just like breaking down the phases of life into 4 stages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we go back? What were those stages again?
Rest, career, family, old age, demise.
Career, family, old age, and then demise.
Yeah, because family, I think, is probably the most like the thickest amount you get, right? It's not evenly distributed into quartiles.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've spent a lot of time building myself during this, educational stage in a lot of senses. And I want to test that. I want to see where I'm at. I want to, knock on the door, see what the foundation looks like. And I hope that would kind of give me the pivot to push to go and then have an amazing 60, odd years to come.
Well, you invoked a couple names before, so I'm intrigued that when I ask you, give me a Survivor winner and a non-winner that you identify with, are you including those names or do you have other ones in mind?
I mean, once upon a time, Cochran would have been the one. But I do think maybe I've outgrown that a little bit. Maybe I'm a little bit more personable and than at middle school, which was really the dark ages. It was a medieval period that I neglect from the history books. But I think now, if you were gonna pigeonhole me today, I'd be like somebody like Ryan Ulrich, maybe a guy like Jonathan Penner, maybe even the hallowed, the great Rob Cesternino. I'm a fast talker, a bit of a wit. I'm very authentic, and I can have some rough edges.
What's your favorite moment?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. Once he said Ryan Ulrich, Rob, I couldn't unsee it.
I could see that. Am I sort of like the middle point between Ryan Ulrich and Penner?
I'm not sure. I think
you move the slider halfway in between Ryan Ulrich and Penner.
Yeah, if you're doing the character creation screen on the Survivor game, and Rob is sort of like the middle point between the two of them. I mean, it's interesting to hear how he finished.
I'm halfway in between Ryan Ulrich and Rob.
Yeah, I mean, let's sort of do some time traveling. I guess, Rob, you're the child of Penner and Ryan Ulrich at this point.
Wow. I guess that's during the family era. A lot can get done.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, though, to invoke Ryan Ulrich because, I do feel like he's a bit forgotten in the annals of Survivor history. I think mainly due to the endgame narrative of Triple H being Chrissy versus Ben. I think we sort of count out the Ryan narrative in the pre-merge of Triple H, which was very strong. It was a very odd narrative for Ryan where he was really, really good in the first half of the game, and then it just all faded. Once, this
faded.
Exactly. Much like his dad. This quartet came together, and then Ryan was sort of on the outs, and then he kind of faded from a narrative perspective as well. And so I do think that Drew has those qualities to him. We'll certainly get into like how he might vibe with this tribe, considering that he is playing alongside someone who said begrudgingly that she didn't really trust him due to his behavior in the pre-season portion here. But I do think he has that Ryan Ulrich upside, where Ryan was never the strongest person, but he had his certain place that he filled in the tribe from like a social perspective, a humor perspective as well.
And I can have some rough edges.
What's your favorite moment in the history of Survivor? Is it connected to one of the people you just invoked?
I mean, if so, tangentially. I got a couple. I've been thinking about this. I've been waiting for somebody to ask me this. You're the first one. My favorite strategic play is probably the Three Amigos idol, hold up in Caramo. And that's an epic moment. I like the minority vote split in David versus Goliath. But
Austin hated that moment.
I do have a soft spot for some of kind of like the adventurous moments of days yore. So like Guatemala, when they had the huge trek, that first episode, nobody talks about that. Or Vanuatu, when like Chad gets drunk on kava and they like go to a volcano. Like that stuff always stuck with me, And so I would say those are my favorite moments. But yeah.
So how have you been preparing for this experience? Because like you said, you talk about this pivot in your life.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that hampers though the 24 hours you have in a day to also prepare for Survivor. So what's the process been like for you in like the months leading up to this?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more of like a pragmatic answer on this one than maybe you're asking for. But I was watching season 44 and I'm watching Carson do these puzzles and he's got them all 3D printed. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm an idiot. Like why I don't have time. Like, it's too late. But like, duh. But no. I was super busy on the lead up because obviously I had to finish all of my coursework to get here. So like write all the papers, all the thesis and stuff. I did, however, have time to teach myself to swim. And I got reasonably good at it. I hope you won't see me drown. I did practice some of the more common puzzles, my slide puzzles down pat, things like that. And I did some cardio, did some running. So listen, Mike, you are not going to get the you're not going to get Adonis out there. I'm not going to be an Olympian, but I hope I'll hang in it. And I have put some prep work into
Adrunas. What is one life experience you feel like has prepared you most for the game?
See, this is like such a ripe opportunity to brag and like say like something fun, but I'll be honest, which is that during COVID, I moved back to Philly to be with my girlfriend, and like I needed a job, and I needed a job that had flexible hours, and so I got a job at a call center, and I worked at the call center for about 1.5 years total. And the call center was very different because in my day-to-day school life, I'm, hobnobbing with the rich and famous. These kids, it's a lot of money, rich, luxurious lifestyles. But then at the call center, like you're calling people who are just coming back from work, people who are a little bit more in touch with the real world. And you got to not only talk to them, but you got to talk to them quick. Like you have to be authentic, like in their will within 10 seconds. So that's tough. And I think that kind of, that split is going to help me out.
Woodpecker. Yeah. So that being said,
did you say in their will?
In their will. Yeah. I love Drew so much. He's talking about like, listen, he talks about demise being a stage of life, and now he wants to be in their will as well. He's clearly thinking about the end goal, the end posts of someone's lifespan. I'll say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it. I think the most important skill you can have going into Survivor is some experience in the service industry. I think is some sort of thing on your resume about dealing with different types of people every day and putting on that smile and trying to get across some sort of agenda, whether it's like working for a tip, whether it's in Drew's case, getting into somebody's will, I suppose, Knives Out style. And so I do think this really helps because you look at Drew's age, and I think the one thing we've habitually seen with the younger contestants on Survivor, especially in this new era, one of the things that works against them is that lack of life experience, is that most of the time they're either in school or they're fresh out of school. And as Drew himself will say, he doesn't necessarily even feel like he's an adult yet. And so how do you compare yourself to the voluminous life experiences that the people you're playing with have inevitably had by comparison? I think the call center experience is going to help here with Drew. I think this idea of, okay, listen, I may not have had nearly as much time on this planet as you all do, but not only are you closer to that demise stage, but at least I have the
old age.
Yeah, but at least I have the opportunity to interact with more of these people. Now, is it as down deep and personal as you may want in that type of relationship? No, I'm cold calling these people just as they get out of the bath, but I would say it's better than nothing in this case.
Okay.
That kind of that split is going to help me out.
Yeah, so that being said, I mean, you have worked in so many different environments, to your point, but how do you think people in this game will perceive you? Once you step foot on that beach, what do you expect people to see from you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very tempting to just like give me the once over and be like, oh, Napoleon Dynamite, And I do have my clumsy moments, to be honest with you. I think very quickly, though, people are going to, suss out that there's a little more going on, that he is like a social threat to some degree, that he is certainly a strategic threat. He's a smart guy. And, perhaps it's for my ego, but I'm going to roll with that. You know, I don't intend to play things down. Like, I'm going to show people who I am. And I think that quickly they say, okay, this is a guy who needs to be taken seriously and who I should work with.
Interesting. What's the tactic behind that choice? Because, you know, 9 out of 10 Survivor players, you'd ask this question, they're like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to play up that stereotype. But you're like, nope, tell me I'm smart. Tell me I'm wily.
Mike, the rationale behind this is a symbolic rationale, which is that we've had the big moves era in the 30s, and now we have the little moves era in the 40s. And it's like, stay underwater until like you can submerge at the very end. I have so much respect for Survivor. I do. Like, it's an honorable, like almost game of epic proportion. And so I want to go out there and play the game that it deserves. Now, this is, to be clear, this is not like flame out day one looking for an idol, but you know, I'm gonna play it like a game of chess. And in chess, you don't like hide all your pieces in the corner. You don't hide them all until the end game, and then like, you know, send a couple out. It's a full-fledged thing.
Woodpecker. So when it comes to the people so we need to break this down, because I think this is such an interesting concept, both from his own personal perspective and the meta perspective. Let's start with the personal here. Drew is making a concerted effort to not hide any part of himself, to say, hell yeah, I'm smart. Hell yeah, I'm a student at UPenn. I'm not gonna, he says in his 1-minute video, like, I'm not gonna lie about my major at all. And I think he talked about in his video in particular that he hopes that sort of, again, brazen honesty will make him be perceived as trustworthy. In your opinion, Rob, how far does that go versus this idea of like, okay, well, now we know how smart you can be?
Well, I kind of like it because, I mean, what do you think? Lanky Blanky is going to show up and say, hey, I'm like unemployed, you know, I play video games all day.
I mean, I also think it is complimentary, right? Your first impression of me is that I'm Napoleon Dynamite, that I'm the nutty professor. And you're absolutely right. I go to UPenn. It does feel a bit validating to people as well. And I think Drew also, unfortunately, I think has this thing where he has a very clear first impression that he gives off. And so if he says, to your point, basically anything but like, yeah, I'm this bookworm that spends a lot of time in the library, nobody's going to believe him.
Yeah, nobody's going to believe him. And he's going to tell them the truth. They're probably going to think like he's you know, a scientist that's like, you know, splitting the atom or whatever. Like, they might not even believe that he's just a student, that they'll probably think that he's hiding something. But anyway, you know, he's the guy, he's got to get his foot in the door. I mean, I think that he has a, you know, endearing personality, but he needs people to give him a chance.
Yeah, so the only issue will be that he is very clearly going to be pigeonholed into one thing in Survivor challenges, which is the puzzle. And I do wonder for Drew, if he starts biffing it those first couple times. Let's look at the beloved Zach Wertenberger as an example. Someone who was not the physically strongest. They put him on a puzzle. He bungled the puzzle alongside Tori in that first challenge. And they said, like, well, what are you good for? I think it is something that cuts both ways of like, well, we can really only look to you to do the puzzle. If you can't do that, why should we keep you around?
Okay. All right.
For a second, though, I do want to actually dote upon the whole the little moves era. Rob, are the 40s of Survivor the little moves era as opposed to the big moves era of the 30s?
Yeah. So I wonder if the big moves era was also the little moves era, where, you know, it was just branded as the big
the little moves era.
Hey, I thought my moves were good. Yeah, that was it branded as big moves? Because I do feel like that the players who have won in this era, it has been subtle little moves that they have made and that have been under the radar. Sometimes their entire games are like, what did they even do? And less, I would say Jam Jam is probably the person who was less that, but I think that the idea of the Tika 3 was sort of like that, hey, we're at the bottom, nobody worry about us. And they were able to sort of like hide in plain sight, as Gabler ended up doing. But I think it's been that the threat that they didn't see coming has been the person who has won in that. That's the connective tissue, I think, in the new era.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't necessarily attribute that to little moves. I think it's more of a perception thing than it is a strategy thing. I mean, even looking at the era that ended right before this new era, you're looking at sort of a like vacillating back and forth where you have people like Ben, Wendell, Nick, Chris all make these big moves that lead to the winning game. You have someone like Tommy who doesn't really need to do that. at all and wins handily. And then we go right back to Tony, who plays one of the most dominant games in the show's history. And so I could see it if you're looking at it again from the perspective of the winners as to like what is necessary to do. Again, I wouldn't particularly attribute it to little moves. I would say maybe it's more like tactical things. It's about needing to be less showy. Though again, you look at like what Marianne was able to do as an example of like that was a big move. That was the biggest move of the season that she was able to pull off. You could say Erica getting rid of Shan, one of the biggest moves of the season.
It was the move that nobody saw coming because this was not a player who was playing from the front.
Right, exactly. And so I do wonder how Drew, again, his perception will play into that, because I think if you look at this cast and you say who is the most likely person to plan this big tactical maneuver, I think Drew would probably be number one on that list.
Okay, let's go back to Drew.
It's a full-fledged thing.
So when it comes to the people you're playing against, what are you seeking in an alliance partner? Any specific characteristics you want in a ride or die?
Yeah, okay, ride or die. I'm glad you said that because I very much am looking for a ride or die. Again, I think an impression people might have of me, maybe you do, maybe my competitors or allies will, is that like I'm slimy. I want to play people. I do not. Like I come from a house that really valued loyalty. And you don't have to be loyal to everyone, but you got to be loyal to that core group. And so I am looking for a core group who I can be lockstep with. People who I can like tally up with to the end of the game. Maybe it's only one or two, but that is what I'm looking for. That being said, I'm young. My hope is that I can find someone who can bring me a little age, a little wisdom, and also find somebody who can bring some physicality that I'm lacking. I'm sure that you can, put the pieces together with who you've talked to, who I might have in mind, but yeah.
No, yeah. Let's elaborate on that, because obviously, I wouldn't say have been studying people, but like you've been certainly, I'm sure making.
Yeah, I had the binoculars out. I'm like, it's like a sting operation. We like follow, take notes.
Yeah. Who's your mark right now? Like, describe to me some of these people that from either direction, either ones that you're like, okay, if we draw the same buff, best case scenario, and then maybe some people you can describe for me that you're like, big red flag. I'm running down your name as soon as possible.
Well, listen, man. Number one, I think it's Bruce. I'm like pretty much 100% because it's BP. He's wearing Boston stuff. But I'm horrible with faces. Like I can't do faces. Like I don't, they just don't click for me. So I can never be 100%. But I think it's Bruce. And if it is, that's the guy. Like I want to work with him. I know he's a straight shooter. He's got like background exactly what I'm looking for. Additionally to him, I'd love to work with the guy you just talked with, like super buff, long hair Asian guy, young.
Okay.
He seems like a dependable guy who is going to bring that strength that I'm looking for. But yeah, I'll tell you,
you're in luck there.
I don't see many people I don't like. Somebody who intimidates me maybe a little bit is like he's kind of like a beefy, I think like Boston firefighter type dude. I look at him and think that maybe he's not going to, pick up what I put down.
Woodpecker.
Who is the beefy Boston firefighter dude?
I am assuming this is Jake. Now, it's tough because they can't talk, so, you can't really tell Jake is from Boston unless he just has that energy about him until he opens his mouth.
And he's a lawyer, right?
Yes, but he does have that physique, that larger physique that, again, he's not walking around with, his recent JD degree. Let's go to the more, the more appropriate attribution, though, the fact that Drew calls out Austin. And he does say in his 1 minute, or not in his 1 minute, I believe it's the Dalton Ross video as well about first impressions, that he says that he wants to be the brain to this guy's brawn. Now that we've seen both Austin and Drew, Rob, do you predict this could be a duo?
Might be interesting. I mean, Austin didn't mention anything about him. It didn't really seem like that this was like an ally that he was looking for. But, maybe Michael could win him over, both young guys.
I mean, I could definitely see it because remember, Austin wants someone that can make him laugh. And Drew is such a funny character that I think as long as Drew is able to like get in his ear and start spreading this sort of like self-effacing dry charm that he's been bringing about in this interview, I think he's got him hook, line, and sinker. And I do think this could be a really fun duo and arguably something that could help keep Drew in the game. Like I said, I think Austin's one of the most safe people in this tribe. If they feel like, okay, if we're keeping Austin, then we're keeping Drew as well, that might help a lot.
I look at him and think that maybe he's not going to, pick up what I put down.
So let me present some scenarios to you here.
Yeah.
So pre-merge.
All right, I'm ready.
There we go. You're in mode right now. You're hanging out, pre-merge, hanging out with your tribe on the beach. boat pulls up, guy steps off, the tribe has to send a person to go on a journey. Now, you and I both know that like these things come with good and bad things. What's your tactic to approach this? Are you volunteering? Are you going to try to will someone else to do it? How are you approaching this scenario?
So I tend to find that the rewards for going on this journey become a little more enticing after the first one. Like the first one is like little things, like the steal a vote, the bank a vote, you know. But I want the whole vote. I want the immunity idol, the vote, the steal, whatever. So I might play it cautiously on that first go, but after that, I want to go. I want the experience. I want the idol. I'm a firm believer that you really cannot navigate the middle game and the early game of the new era Survivor without an advantage of some kind. But I think that some of the new advantages have been a little underused. So like, remind me, Mike, what is the one where you play it and then you get all the idols that were played in the tribal council? What's that called?
The inheritance advantage, man. Rest in peace.
The inheritance advantage. Well, my thought process is like the inheritance advantage. If I have an idol and the inheritance advantage, I can play both and then I can recoup my idol. You know, that what a rich strategic potential that has. And so these are the kind of things I'd like to do. And that's why I'm going to be, aggressive in seeking these advantages.
What is your hottest Survivor take? What do you think is your most controversial opinion on like a season or a player or the show proper?
Well, I can tell you my favorite Survivor player, which is going to be really controversial. People won't believe it, but my favorite is definitely Brad Culpepper. I'm a Culpepper fanatic, but that's definitely a controversial take. I really love the guy though. I think there are some seasons that don't get some love, like again, Vanuatu.
Didn't tell us why.
Which I mentioned already, that are great, and that should be a little more highly heralded.
Well, last thing I'm going to ask, and you know what I'm going to end with. If you could pick a celebrity or a fictional character to come out for a loved one's visit, who are you picking and why?
Pedro.
So this is a tough question because it's like, are they just like coming for the visit? Or are they like my loved one? You know what I mean?
I mean, I would imagine like in this scenario, they'd like know of you. I suppose you can make of this whatever you want to. Your French vanilla fantasy here.
I would choose like maybe somebody interesting to have a conversation with. So like a philosopher, like maybe I'd be like, you bring me Aristotle. Maybe I'd do like Batman. I don't know, because he's got like two things going on. He's rich too. Maybe if we're friends, he'll help me out.
What a spectrum! Aristotle and Batman. They both have caves associated with them. So I guess they are sort of two sides of the same coin.
Oh, that was pretty good. I gotta work on my. That was nice, Mike. I like that.
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
On the scale of Aristotle to Batman.
I'm assuming that's how he's going to start every conversation he has. On a scale of Aristotle to Batman, how are you feeling about me right now?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll tell you that I guess, what's good? Is Aristotle good or Batman is good?
I think it really depends, and it depends on the Batman as well.
Yeah.
I think if we're calling like George Clooney Batman, then it's bad.
I really feel like that Drew is going to be a lot of fun to have in this season. I'm not feeling great based off of the profile. I feel like that I could squint and see it, but I feel like a lot has to go right for Drew.
Well, here's the thing. I do think if you look at these three tribes, I did say that Yellow last time was going to be a bit of a hot mess from a challenge performance perspective. I think Red could do well. We're looking already at people like Austin and Dee. We'll get into a few others that I think does make this a more well-rounded group. This could be a thing where maybe they go to tribal council once, and if Drew evades that and just doesn't go for the rest of the pre-merge, that's something that could help him. I think he is in one of these positions where he probably is in the most amount of danger in this pre-merge portion of the game. Again, where he is foisted upon these puzzles, and if he's not able to deliver, then they're just going to say like, okay, we'll get rid of you. I do have some reservations about, as he acknowledged, the fact that he might be perceived as slimy initially. I think, as he mentioned, he'll have to really go above and beyond to say, no, I'm a team player. I'm a loyal person. And then at that point, when is he going to be able to pull out this duplicitousness that he's talking about, right? His Hoover-like plan to get his idol back using the inheritance advantage.
The thing that also gives me pause, and he cited Penner, and Penner famously is somebody who is very straightforward about what he's doing. He's almost like not duplicitous, but the fact that he is always like outing his intention of what he could do, he's like, sure, I could vote you out tonight, but why would I do that? And the fact that he talks out loud like that makes people uncomfortable. And I could see that same sort of thing coming from Drew,
Right.
where like just in talking through, of course, I wouldn't do that, but it's something, of course, that is possible.
Right, because the thing is that you are the idea that you're mentioning it in the first place, I think shows people, oh, you were actually considering it. That's not a good
Mhm.
thing. I agree. I think that Drew is someone who I think understandably prides himself on his speaking skills. He says in his bio, he's a good strategist and a potent speaker. He did mock trial. He's a 2-time state
Ah.
finalist. Also interesting, he also played Scrabble competitively once upon a time. I think that could come even more handy than slide puzzles, right? Those infamous
Mhm.
word puzzles. He won't
Wordle.
do a Remord Shaint Fixin' or whatever the bungled puzzle was in the Dirty
Mhm.
30. So I do agree, though. Drew, again, this is where the other side of the being unabashedly yourself and not hiding a part of yourself could really work against you. If you're like, let me show how honest I am by talking through everything I'm thinking about, there is still, I think, a filter that needs to be applied. And I do think that Drew has the wherewithal to be able to apply that filter. I think it just depends on how much he'll be able to. So I go back and forth. I think there's a chance that he could really easily be in trouble early on if he doesn't make the right bonds at the right time.
Mhm.
If he's able to get in good and survive until the merge, I think he'll do pretty well. There still might be a chance that especially the other people on the other tribes who might not know him as well will still stick with that first impression that Dee mentioned and be like, oh, this guy's the snake. This guy's the strategist. We got to get him out. But if he's able to work past that perception and, be able to get in the good graces, much like he did with his original tribe, he could make a cut.
All right, Mike, let's welcome in the fourth person in this tribe we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about Jay Maya.
Yes, Jay Maya, the stage name of Janani Krishnan Jha. She is 24 years old, Californian, born and raised in San Fran, but currently lives in Los Angeles, California because, Rob, she is pursuing a life in the arts. She is a singer.
Okay, all right. Here comes Jay Maya.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I wasn't anticipating to walk in and have a computer be in the room. This is great. It reminds me of old life in a little small way.
I was gonna say, were you expecting me to be like sitting at a table waiting for you, or were you just expecting nothing?
I think I was expecting nothing. I think that's generally how I feel about this entire process. Is just walk into room, see what happens. Pre-game is a lot of go there, and then you find out in the moment.
A lot of hurry up and wait. Well, I am Mike. Nice to meet you. Give me your bio line. Give me your name, where you're from, what you do.
Absolutely. I am Jay. Jay is short for my full artist name, which is Jay Maya. I'm 24. I'm from San Francisco, California originally, but I'm based now in Los Angeles, California, and I'm a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, so talk to me about this, because I saw a little bit of it in the blurb that I was given ahead of time, because
Yes.
I mean, you grew up as, I'm sure, with a song in your heart, but this was something you haven't pursued your entire life, right? Talk to me about this journey.
100%. So growing up, I think I internalized a lot of the pressure from my community and family to pursue a very traditional path. So I am Indian American. My parents both immigrated to this country late in their lives, and they had this dream that one of their children would attend what they perceived to be the most prestigious institution, which is in their minds Harvard Law School. I think genuinely part of it comes from having watched Legally Blonde.
I was about to say.
Enough, I get it. It's a phenomenal film. But I think growing up, I looked at my parents and I was like, they've sacrificed so much for me to even be here that I want to help make their dreams come true, in addition to, just being a good daughter. And I decided that it was my one-track mission that I was going to get into Harvard Law School. And that's been my life goal since I was like 8 years old. And I did everything exactly right, even though I've always been a really creative person and I naturally gravitated toward writing. I channeled all of that into debate. So in high school, I was a debater and I ended up getting into Harvard. And at Harvard, I traveled around the world doing collegiate debate. I won a ton of awards, and I actually ended up getting accepted early to Harvard Law School when I was a junior in college still. And it was alarm bells rung, because I think I just realized in that moment of getting accepted that this was supposed to be like the happiest moment of my life. And I was miserable because I didn't want to go to law school. And I felt like it made it real for me. But I decided that I couldn't just immediately abruptly give it up, because it meant so much to so many people. So what I started to do
is I started in my senior year of college, and then in the pandemic, I started uploading acoustic demos of songs that I had written to TikTok under an anonymous name, J Maya, which is not my real name. And one of the songs one day went viral. No one in my life knew that I wrote songs. So not a single friend, not a parent, not a family member, not a previous boyfriend. It was something I kept completely secret. But somehow I found the courage to tell my parents, A, I'm not going to law school. B, I write songs. C, one of said songs went viral, and D, I'm moving to LA and I'm going to be a professional full-time singer-songwriter. And here we are 2 years later, and I've kind of made it happen somehow.
Now, let's move on to the next verse of that song, which is the survivor of it all, right? Because
Yes,
that's
the survivor of it all.
I mean, that's a big move in and of itself, and you are
Not
about to
little
enter a
moves.
game full of them in a very different way. So what brought you to explore this new experience after making such a shift into a new experience only a couple of years ago?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I love this question because to me, Survivor is a microcosm of life experience. And for me, you know, going through this experience a couple of years ago of having to make this crossroads decision, one road being extremely safe, one that I knew well, one that I was prepared for, and then the other road being a complete unknown, starting from scratch, essentially coming into the music industry with no experience and no connections and knowing nothing about what I was supposed to do, but a road that was still somehow so enticing. Making that decision and having it turn out well was a big life lesson for me, because I think I realized that you get no reward without risk taking. And it sets me up, I think, well for a game where you ultimately do have to make bold moves if you want to be rewarded. And so I think that's part of it, is just learning through experience how valuable it can be to take big, bold risks in your life. And then another
Woodpecker.
piece of this whole puzzle to me.
Okay, Rob, I just had a brain blast. Remember when we went back to Austin
Yes.
and Austin said,
yes.
I want to play like the winners, Wendell and Jay?
Yeah. You know, I was gonna interrupt and say the same thing, but I said no. It wasn't worth it to stop down. But yeah, maybe that you know, look, we talked about time traveling Randy Bailey yesterday. Maybe Austin from the future knows that Jay has the winning game.
Now, could Randy be the Doc Brown and Austin be the Marty McFly?
Yep. I think
I think Austin could really say that's heavy. Yeah, let's talk about this for a second, though, because like this is an absolutely wild story. And listen, as someone who also randomly reached out under an anonymous name and ended up making a career out of it as a result, like I very much sympathize with her story. And definitely, can only imagine from her own cultural perspective, having this idea basically ingrained in her brain this entire time of like, gotta go to Harvard, gotta get into Harvard Law, gotta become a lawyer. It must have been so fright-inducing to be like, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to enter the very safe music industry instead of falling back on a law career. And so I'm so happy she's had as much success as she does. And I do think it's not exactly apples to oranges. I do think you need a lot of wherewithal, a lot of hustle to do that.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of people trying to get into Harvard Law, and you know, some people would like go to great lengths to even say they did when they didn't.
Well, listen, we'll perhaps talk next time about someone who just graduated from Harvard Law. So could be an interesting discussion point.
Okay.
Is that a big part of who I am is, you know, we're all kind of searching for the inner child amidst all of the chaos of our lives, right? And for me, I grew up someone who had their head in a book 24/7. And for me, reading has always been like a huge escape. The music I write, actually, funnily enough, people call it nerd pop because I talk so much about books and crossword puzzles and language and puns in it. It's just who I am. And growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends because I was a bit of an outsider. I grew up in a really white town, and I'm myself am Indian American. And reading was an escape for me. And the books that I would gravitate toward more than any other were adventure novels and fantasy novels. They've like stories of kids going on big quests to save the world. And I just grew up with this dream in my heart that, you know, however ludicrous it sounded, one day I would get to go on a quest like that of my own. But then you realize, okay, like life isn't like that. Quests don't really exist, until I came across Survivor. And I was like, this is as close to a big adventure that you can get in one's lifetime, I think. And from then on, it just kind of imprinted in my brain. I was like, this is the way to make my inner child proud. I have no idea if like this is an experience that is so new to me. I'm stepping into it. I don't have any experience in this world, but the thrill of it all is like how unknown it is, what a challenge it is, you know?
Woodpecker. Yeah. So how does this incorporate?
Yes.
Yes, let me give a quick shout out to J Maya's music because, as you would imagine from a popular TikToker, it is readily available. I spent a good amount of time this afternoon deep diving into her works on Spotify, and yeah, Nerd Pop would be putting it mildly. Her most popular stream song on Spotify, which has over nearly 15 million streams, is a song called Achilles' Heel, which is strewn with references to Greek mythology. I'm talking like every other line.
Wow.
This isn't that type of person that's like, yeah, I'm a nerd. I enjoy
Get her
playing.
to perform at the Ron Clark Academy.
I mean, listen, she is very good with education. I think another good one that she does is Sunday Crossword, where it's all about breaking down like what's a 9-letter word to say I love you. I actually really recommend checking out her music. It has almost like
a 9-letter word to say I love you.
Yeah. She's answered it for you. Don't worry.
Okay.
But I do think that I don't know, it very much fits in my own niche. I am speaking out of my butt here as someone who is very musically declined, not inclined. But it's almost like she has like Taylor Swift melodies and beats behind like very nerdy lyrics, and I absolutely love it. So check it out if you want to indulge in all of her fantastic vocals and music.
Okay. All right. Back to J Maya.
Is what a challenge it is, you know?
Yeah. So how does this incorporate into like your history with Survivor? Is this something you've always been watching? I'm assuming that also fed into your sort of kid-like fantasies of going on this big jungle adventure.
Yeah. I would say Survivor was on when I was growing up because my parents watched it. And for me, I was pretty insulated. Even as a kid, I grew up in America. I was born and raised here, but I grew up in a really strict Indian household, and I didn't get a lot of insight as to like what traditional American media was, you know what I mean, in my home. And so Survivor was just kind of one of those shows that was on growing up, and I just saw it and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is American media at its finest. But the truth is I didn't have a lot of other things to compare it to. And you know what? Now that I do, it still is phenomenal television. So I stand by that. But I will say I came into Survivor personally, like in my own life, I would say 2 or 3 years ago. It's always been in my peripheral vision, but it wasn't until the pandemic that I really started getting into it because I would watch it on Netflix. And I believe that things happen for a reason. I'm a really proud Hindu. It's a big part of who I am. And we really do believe in the universe and karmic energy. I believe that Survivor came into my life at a time when it needed to, because that was right at the cusp of me making my big decision, taking my big adventure to leave what I knew to be true and pursue an adventure on, the other side of the country. And for me, I think it all is so full circle because it makes sense that it came into my life at that time. And now that I'm on the other side of that big decision to be on the show, it feels really full circle to me.
If you could give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner that you associate yourself with, either personally, strategically, what have you, who are you picking?
Oh my gosh. Oh no, both of the people I want to say have won seasons, but one lost a season before.
I'll give it to you. I'll let that count.
I love that. Okay. Well, my quasi loser is Parvati. And a reason that I give for Parvati, which is so funny to me, is that I don't know how many people know this, but the name Parvati comes from Hinduism. It's the name of a really powerful Hindu goddess. And I am also named after a very powerful Hindu goddess. So I feel a soul connection with her. But no, seriously, I think she was one of the players I watched early on that really represented to me what it means to wield others' perception of you to your advantage. Like, I think especially in her first season, she had this reputation for being a flirt maybe and being bubbly and fun. And I think people tend to discount women who show those traits because they think that they don't have that strong, ruthless edge in them hidden behind all of those layers of niceness. And I think I just saw in her from the first moment that she's a really complex woman and brilliant because she was able to leverage other people's perception of her to her advantage and craft this really strategic game around it. So she's someone I've always really looked up to and admired. And I would say a winner. Okay, I'm going to be horrible and give you 2 quick winners because I can't pick between The first is Marianne, because similarly, I think Marianne is a genius at leveraging other people's perception of her, having a good read as to where she stands in the game, having the self-awareness to understand how people see her, and then brilliantly using it to her advantage. I think I love her, final tribal performance more than any that I've seen, because you see how methodical she's been from the beginning, and you see people's reactions as they learn that she's been this strategic mastermind the whole time. I think it's just so satisfying to watch that. She's so good at what she does. And then just, because she was a big role model to me growing up, Natalie, it's just awesome to see brown woman on the screen rocking it.
Yeah.
Like, of course, hell yeah, exactly. So she's a big inspo to me as well.
What do you think people are going to perceive you as? I mean, you come from the entertainment industry, right? Where like image is everything. Do you have a sense as to how
100%.
these people might be viewing you?
Yeah, I think people, and when I think people will, I also mean, I hope people will, right? We'll see how it plays out. But I think people will see me as, a bubbly personality. It's something that I think I'll definitely try to get across. I think I have a lot of facets to who I am, and they're all valid because we're all complex human beings. But I think I can be both very bubbly and social, and also very introspective and thinking inwardly. And I think I'm going to try to bring out the first part of myself as much as possible, because I think it throws people off guard a little bit in a good way. It doesn't make them see you as someone who's scheming and plotting and potentially a threat. And I think I'm also going to play up the part of my personality that exists in the music industry, right? Is like big and bold and fun. And then try to privately have those moments of reflection and thinking and thinking about where in the game I can fit myself. But I think it's going to be bubbly and hopefully fun. I'm also going to make a lot of puns, so I think people might get a little annoyed.
Okay, we like that.
At some point about that.
Well, I know one person who won't, so I'll be happy about it. I might not be playing, but I'll be thrilled with it. I mean, when you're looking around, let's say you're trying to form like the beach band, right, on a Survivor, you're looking around your competition right now. Who are you eyeballing? Is there anybody that you're just making first impressions with of like, okay, if we draw the same buff, I want to work with them? On the other hand, is there anyone that you're like, major red flag, I'm writing their name down as soon as I get the chance to? Are you making any judgments about these people around you?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard because we haven't been talking to each other. So it's all based off of like glances and look at what people are reading and stuff. Total like covert operations. Well, I'll say the obvious, which is that Bruce is on our season, which is very exciting. And I mean, he was someone even before he was medically evacuated on his season. He was one of the first people I saw and was just like, that person seems like he knows the game and he knows what's going on. And I think it would be awesome to get to work with Bruce at some point in the game. We'll see how that pans out. But I will say I am a bit hesitant because I think he will be held in such high regard and high favor, as he should be. He's an amazing player, and it's so awesome he gets the chance to come back and do this again. It's just something to be wary of, right? Like, you don't want someone on your alliance who's too crucial to the game. Otherwise, you're going to be the first to go if your alliance is under fire. So that's something I'm thinking about right now. And other than that, I would say that I love, the energy of everyone that I've seen so far, but something that I'm definitely, I'm planning to and would love to do is just work with women. I think we've seen a trend in the last few seasons of young women going home very early. And I think that's due to the 3-tribe structure and perceived tribe strength as it pertains to challenges. And I think it would be awesome to just come into my tribe and talk to the women and say, it's either us or them. So why don't we just band together, see how far we can make it as a crew, and then figure it out from there. And I will also say that this group of people looks remarkably young. Like, I think there are only a couple of people who are I would say even not in their 30s. I think everyone, it skews really young. I mean, I wouldn't even be shocked if the season had like a theme as it pertains to age. I have no idea. But I mean, that being said, I think I relate a lot with young women. And so we'll see if that happens naturally on the tribe. And all the women, the energy seems great so far. So
last thing I want to ask, if you could bring a celebrity or a fictional character out there as your loved ones visit, who would it be and why? Are you going fellow musician or are you going in a different direction?
I'm absolutely going the fictional character direction because that's an amazing question. And as a bookworm, I'm going to have to tie between two answers that just immediately spring to mind. The first is Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games novels. Because who better to help you with the strategy of the game, to pinpoint who you should be allying with. And I think, yeah, it should be great. And then the other character is Annabeth Chase from the Percy Jackson series. The Percy Jackson series that got me into reading. I've been rereading it honestly here at pregame because I've been wanting to remind myself of the spirit of adventure that I was obsessed with as a kid in reading. So she's been on my mind a lot. And I think both of these characters are women who would just like rise to the challenge. I think it's something that something I know I'm going to struggle with coming into the game, is just getting in my own head and not trusting my gut and my instinct, because I think I can be a bit of an anxious person. And I think both of those women would just tell me to snap out of it and like do what needs to be done. And I think I would appreciate that.
Amazing. Well, I hope you're able to capture that lightning in a bottle in a manner of speaking and be able to, take it the full way, 26 days to the end. May the odds ever be in your favor. I should say this was so great getting to chat with you, Jay. I really do wish you the best of luck. I know it's going to be an incredible experience. And no matter what, by the end of this, you're going to have a song to sing. And that's just going to be super fantastic.
I can't wait to hear it.
All right, there you go, Mike.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. So there's a lot to get into with that latter portion of the interview. And in particular, Rob, something that is very much on the minds of these contestants at this point that I interviewed them. Now, as we mentioned, they had just seen only the first half of Survivor 44, but something that was really reverberating through the community at the time was the fact that for the umpteenth season in a row in this new era, we had a disproportionate number of women that were going in the pre-merge. This is something that Bruce even points out in one of his first impressions interview videos with Dalton Ross, that like he thinks there is going to be a bit of a purposeful shift in the other direction, where he actually thinks a couple of men will go before the women, just because I think the opinion is so far out there at this point that nobody necessarily wants to be that one, especially in this like hyper aware social media era of the show, to be like, yeah, let me continue perpetuating this sort of unconscious bias that is happening.
Well, for the people that are aware of that perception, I think that's definitely something that people are going to have there. Is going to be front of mind for people, but also I think people are going to probably do what's best for their games before they're going to do, well, what's Twitter going to think of this move?
Well, yeah, and I think it makes sense, though, that from the perspective of someone who is very much understandably concerned with brand, to think about much like I think it was Rachel Riley told Nicole, right? Your brand is watching. And so from that perspective, Jay is in a really interesting position to me, because she said she wants to work with women, and she wants to work particularly with young women. And as we're about to get into with our next person on this tribe, there's only one other younger woman. Now, what's interesting is that so far we have 26, 26, 23, 24. This is a relatively young tribe. And so I think if J. Maya is able to vibe with them, she could form a solid group. But I do think this plan that she wants to come in with will have to be tweaked a bit just based on the group that she's with.
All right, Mike, anything else about J. Maya?
Yeah, so reviewing this, I think unlike her genre of music, I think her style of gameplay is a little hard to pin down at the moment. Like, her story is beautiful and fantastic. It did take up a good chunk of our time. And so it was tough to kind of glean how she would play. She did hint to it a bit towards the end. And she does say in her bio, "Why will you be the sole survivor? I'm adaptable. I've operated in many different spheres in my life. Competitive punning," which is just a delightful phrase.
Sure.
Debate, the music industry, the same way. First observing quietly and then fitting myself into the gaps to carve out my own space. And so if she is trying to pursue her gameplay in a similar way, I think that'll be interesting. I think that might be a bit tough in a 6-person tribe where it's really tough to just sit and wait, because before you know, things have passed you by. I really go back and forth as to, okay, if this tribe is in trouble early on, who's going between her and Drew? Because as I mentioned, like if she gets in good with Dee, I think that will definitely help things. And Dee seems like someone who checks all the boxes of who she wants to work with. But sort of like Drew, I go back to the physicality of it all. Of like, if we're looking at two people like this in the form of Drew and Jay, one of them has to go first. And so I do think, much like Drew, if Jay is able to outlast that first tribal council and then just win out through the pre-merge, she'll do a lot better, because I think people will really overlook her. Perhaps unlike Drew, who might have a bit more of a strategic perception, she admits that's not really the way that she comes across. And so I think she can make a really good doing in the game. I think it might be tougher for her to make it out of those initial stages, though.
Okay, let's see how the rest of this tribe is going to shake out. And let's bring in Julie, who is up next. Mike, what could you set up about Julie?
Well, if you're saying this tribe is a young man's game, well, here's something right up your alley, because it's Julie Alley. Julie Alley.
Is she family, or what stage is she at?
I guess she's between family and demise, I suppose. Aren't we all
old
really
age?
Yeah, old age, I guess, is the third stage. I forgot about that. So Julie Alley, she is 49 years old. She is the oldest person in this cast, a couple of years older than Bruce. She is from Brentwood, Tennessee, born and raised. She is an estate attorney, though that is only a recent career change for her, as we will get into the various circumstances she has shifted through life that brought her onto the island.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from Julie.
Hello. How are you today?
Sorry to keep you waiting. Good. How are you?
Please, I'm here for you. I'm here to serve. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Mike Bloom. I'm with Parade, with Rob Has a Podcast, etc. Who might I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
My name is Julie Alley.
Nice, Julie. What do you do for a living? Where are you from?
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm an attorney.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, now I remember this, right? You are a bit later to becoming an attorney, right? You recently became a lawyer?
I am. I started law school at the age of 40. So I finished in 4 years. It was night classes and passed the bar first time. And so I'm 49. So I've been doing it for 5 years now.
Wow. Well, congratulations. What spurred it along? I'm super intrigued, because obviously you had led 40 years of life up to that point. When made you decide to make the major pivot?
Right. Doesn't everybody start over there? No. At 39, I found myself in the divorce attorney's office, and I was in mediation. Well, I went to walk in, and I waited forever. And then somebody came out and said, "Are you Julie Alley?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. We thought you were the new associate in the office. Come right this way." And I went, "I'm almost 40. Why does she think I'm the new?" So I go through mediation, which is grueling and terrible. But all I'm doing is, this is my new life. This is what I'm going to do. Because I had 2 kids. They're in middle school at that point. And so I remember I called my mom because she was watching my kids. And she was like, "How's mediation going?" And I was like, "Screw mediation. I'm going to be an attorney." She went, "Yes, you are." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." So honestly, because it was that point when I was like, my life is either over, or why not start it over? So I did it. I immediately took the test to get into law school, and I did it. So I graduated law school within a week of my daughter graduating high school.
Wow.
We get to have gown pictures. It was very great.
I hope there was a joint graduation party. I'm sure your daughter loved that.
Yeah. She had her own, but she came to mine.
So that being said, you obviously have the capacity to make changes and moves in your life. So what made you decide that this would be yet another move to make all the way to Fiji? Why Survivor for you?
So another also extremely important part is that, like, my first year of law school, I'm teaching art classes during the day. I'm doing law school at night. I'm raising 2 kids. It was busy. It was busy, but I like things busy. Like, I go. But I was ironing something. I turned on the TV, which I didn't watch that often. I didn't have much time for that. But 2015 Second Chance Cambodia was on. Back then. And I watch it, and I'm like,
Jay
what am
season.
I watching? What is going on? Like, why is Fishback obsessed with Joe? Who are these people? What's going
why?
on? Like, I was sucked in. I was like, and it was this big old school versus new school thing going on. I mean, It was a great season. Amazing. So I'm watching it and I went, I want to be on the show. Like that was back 2015 because I was like, but it was also all those survivors were getting a second chance, right? They were all like, we're coming back. And it was like my second chance at life. That's why I was just like, I'm starting over. Look at them get another chance. This is my chance. And it just, I kind of just have been obsessed since. So, I mean, the minute my kids, they're grown. My son is a junior in college. My daughter's getting her master's in counseling right now. So they're gone. I finished law school. I was like, let's do it. So the minute I was done with law school, I started applying because I was like, they don't need me. Like, let's do this.
Woodpecker.
So I've been obsessed since. Yeah.
I am obsessed with Julie's energy.
Yeah, no, I love it too. I think that she's really, really fun. I didn't get that from the earlier videos that I had seen from her, but I'm loving what we're seeing right now. Interestingly, she talks about like her son, which is probably around the same age as Austin, who is in this group. Austin, we know, likes to talk about Survivor with his mom. And then here's Julie, the lawyer. I feel like that with what we just heard from Jay Maya about her background of, being like her whole life going through law school, ultimately not completing law school. But I think that there is going to be definitely some shared interests there as well.
Yeah, I really do adore Julie. I think she imbibes so many interesting qualities from a lot of the older women that we've seen on Survivor. Of course, being a Tennessean, got a lot of that Tina Wesson warmth to her. She has the positivity of T-Bird, I think, as well with the way that she talks. And then a little bit of like that Sandy Bergen kind of like kooky energy as well, right?
Yeah.
I think she is going to be the gift queen of Survivor 45. You just see the faces she's making, the weird noises she's doing. Like she is going to be reacted the hell out of this. I mean, this is going to be Brian Scally's meme queen, right?
Maybe.
I don't want to, put words in his mouth too much, but I feel like she checks all the boxes that he likes.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's go back to Julie.
Incredible. So let's put this obsession to the test. Give me a Survivor winner and give me a non-winner who you identify with the most. It could be personal. It could be strategic. What do you think, Anna?
Such a good question. So Cherie, I identify, get off the couch, get on the show. I mean, that rings true for me. And she did not win, but dang it, she was an inspiration. So I most identify with that. So many good winners out there. I'm not similar to Sandra. I don't have that. I mean, she's just a powerhouse, but I can't help it. She is the queen of Survivor. And I adore her. So one, I mean, she played different, right? She played not to lose, but it worked for her. And I'm 49 years old. I'm going after these youngins. My strategy, they're always like, what is your strategy? And I want to talk a big game and I want to act like I got this strategy and I'm going to get to know them and fly under the radar. But I got this huge target on my back. I can't talk. Now, I do have 20 somethings as children, so I can do it a little bit, but as a mom, and I don't want to not be me. Like that's one thing they will see through. I mean, you can't just be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, I have no idea. So I can't fake it. So I guess, but playing not to lose, man, I don't want to get cut first. I guess if I can avoid the target long enough, then I can play the game. So that's what I would pick from Sandra.
Yeah, let's talk about your perception a bit because, I mean, you talk about the demo and how that obviously varies over the course of Survivor history. I mean, are you really thinking about the way that people are going to view you? And is that something you want to play into? Do you want to be the mom of the tribe?
Right. So I think I'm going to have to, it's so hard to foresee. I mean, hindsight's going to be 2020. I mostly want to build connections. I'm good at that. I mean, that's my job. I'm an estate planning attorney now. I got to learn. I got to get people's trust. They got to tell me everything, but I got a suit in those interviews. They come knowing that I'm going to take care of them. We have the roles established. So, but I do want to build that connection. I mean, gosh, in all the seasons, they keep people around that are not annoying, that they should cut. But I'm like, God, just don't be annoying, is what I tell myself.
HF rules.
Like, if I could just be useful, and I'm a hard worker.
Yeah.
But that's like the first stage, and there's so many stages of it. So first stage is just don't go to tribal, like be tribe strong. So if I could build that and be useful, that would get me. I'm hoping.
Yeah. So
Woodpecker.
from a prep perspective, so Rob, she is an estate planning attorney. Drew tried to get into people's wills at a call center.
Yes, that's
I'm seeing
true.
A connection
That's
here.
true. Yeah. Okay. That could work out. You know, she is probably going to be able to connect with the younger people on this tribe, like as a mom. So I think that she has that going for her as well.
So that's the tough thing is I definitely think she can. And I think especially with these younger people who probably have close associations with their mother, they would look to her just like a lot of these people have been talking of Bruce, like, oh, Bruce reminds me of my dad, my uncle, my stepdad, etc. They could see the same thing with Julie. The really tough thing that we have seen time and time again is nobody wants to be the reverse Sierra. Nobody wants to be voted out by their mom. I think the toughest thing for Julie that she herself is expressing is this idea that, okay, she could definitely make a killing in this game, but if she gets to the end, is she going to be able to write that will? Are people going to be able to say, oh, gee, mom, thanks so much for voting me out. Let me give you $1 million.
Yeah, and it's interesting that last season we had 2 moms make it to the final 3. And what did the jury do? They voted for the person that wasn't the mom.
Right. And I think it all depends on circumstances and the way that they're viewed. And I do think Julie has a little bit of that Carolyn energy to her as well. And that, like, she is a little bit offbeat, lovingly so. She has that energy to her, but still feels welcoming at the same time. And I think, again, that comes from that motherliness that, like, they still might be a bit weird, but, like, they're nurturing at the same time. We saw this with Carson and Carolyn. To your point, I could see Julie doing it with Austin, with Drew, with Jay, maybe even with Dee. And I think that's the thing that she really has going for her. I think the toughest thing, like she says, it's all about stages. I think that final stage would be the hardest part for her. And not even just getting there, it's being able to overcome that perception.
Yeah. I think she needs to like tap into how she would interact with her adult children and be a little bit more focused on like being Julie the lawyer more so than Julie the mom to the tribe.
Right, but that's the tough thing as well, is that if she is more professional with Julie, then you're coming across as wooden. You're coming across as a bit more inauthentic. And
I don't think that when Julie is your lawyer, she comes across as wooden.
I think it's more so just like Julie, but in a suit. You know, she's being the real deal. And I imagine that's why she's as successful as she is.
Okay.
Strong. So if I could build that and be useful, that would get me. I'm hoping.
Yeah. So from a prep perspective, because like you said, you love to keep your planner stacked to the nines. Have you been able to put the time into preparing for the show? What have the steps you've been taking in the months leading up to this?
That's a very good question. When I didn't make it last year, I finished training for a half marathon. But I tailed that down for this year because I'm like, what good does that do me out on an island?
Yeah.
But I do. So I'm typically a 5:15 riser, so I can get my workout in. So
Okay.
I've made it a point. But like I said, yeah, I stay busy, but my kids are out of the house. So it's me and my dog. So we go for runs, we work out, and then I can work throughout the day. And I gave up caffeine months ago. It was very
Bless
sad.
you.
But it was those kind of things that I'm like, nope, don't. You want nothing. You don't need anything. So, and try not to. I've been sleeping well, but I'm like, you're not always going to get to sleep. So one, I'm like, nope, go ahead and get up, go work out. What are you going to do? Let's do it. And I've been watching the show like it's my homework, and it's painful. Like when you know you're going to be on it and then you watch the show, it's not as fun. It's hard. Because it's fun sitting on your couch going, oh, I can't believe they did that. Oh no, this is what I would do. And I'm the biggest fan, so I will completely do all that. But knowing you're going to be one of them, like I'm almost like, oh my gosh, like I pause it and go, okay, what would I do right then? I don't know. I got to see what they did. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Give me one life experience you feel has prepared you most for the game. Was this transition into the law, or was there something else that you feel like is going to play out very much so on the beach?
That's a good question. I think it's my willingness to adapt. Yeah, I think that not just going from stay-at-home mom, art teacher to attorney, but also just my life being an attorney. Getting the first job, sticking with it, maneuvering my way through that firm. I'm working on a transition with another firm right now, which I told them, I said, hey, this is awesome. I'm so excited, but I'm going to need a little bit of time before I, come, because how do you explain being gone 5 weeks? So I'm like, I've got, I haven't taken a vacation in like 10 years. So, and they're like, oh, good idea. So but it's those things, how to maneuver. I feel like my life has been made for Survivor. Before I even started the law class, I didn't know how to be a stay-at-home mom and pay bills. I started being a muralist. I'm not that good at art, but if I could see it, I could paint it. So I did. I started a whole mural company. Then 2008 hit. I mostly did churches at the time, but let me be honest with you, people tithe last, not first. So the church's jobs were gone. So
Woodpecker, this sounds like something Caleb would do.
Yeah, it sounds like a scheme of like, well, listen, we'll be at
And
church.
then my twin sister was on the postcard. It was just me, and I was painting everything.
Julie and Julia. Yeah, I just adore Julie so much. But it's interesting. I mean, imagine if she makes it to the end and then she comes into this new firm and they're like, Jesus Christ, what vacation were you on? You lost like 35 pounds.
Yeah, it's a great still shot also, by the way. Okay.
That's Julie in a nutshell.
I was like, okay, I will teach art classes out of my home. I did that. I needed more money. I became a nanny. I took 4 extra kids for 4 years. So I feel like my whole life has been surviving, which is, I think, why I like the game.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. It's adaptation. It's what do you do when things go bad? Do you thrive or die? And I'm like, let's do this. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm here. What have I done?
Well, let's talk a bit about your competition, about the other bodies that'll be at those tribes for you. What do you value in an alliance partner? What characteristics are you looking for in like a ride or die or a number one?
Great question. So in my mind, my first phase is let's not go to tribal. We gotta win. That's just, and I see over and over, and maybe, I mean, you might watch me and I play it different, but I'm like, don't cut the strong players. I don't care if they snore. I don't care if they're annoying. Like, win them. Back to trouble if you're there. So for me, my plan as of now, and maybe I'll adapt, we will see, is to pick a strong player. Now, will that hurt me because I am a loyalist? Oh my gosh, and that could hurt me. But I do plan on, if I make an alliance, I want to prove strong to that alliance. So, but that's also, I kind of want to be truthful and be like, dude, I got your back till merge. If that will hurt me, that might hurt me. But like, that's honest, because I'm like, that's a whole separate game. Like, let's do a second game. But the first game, which is what just a little Sandra in me, let's just make it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, and I want to be like, I got your back if you're a strong player. But it doesn't necessarily mean strength. We need the smart puzzle people. So let's just, and that's why I've been working hard not to be a weak link. I mean, I'm not going to compete with the 20 somethings on my best day. So I got no illusions of that. I just don't want to be seen as the weakest link. So good alliance would be a strong player.
Now, of the people you're currently walking around with, making eye contact with, do you find anybody that fills that category for you? Describe to me somebody that like you might look at and say, okay, this is who I want to work with if, the cards fall where they do. Is there somebody also that might be giving you red flags where you say, okay, I'm going to write their name down first chance I get?
I don't have any that I would write down. I mean, it's only eye contact. So
Right.
It's only just like looking. So, but I'm sizing people up. And even those that don't look really strong, I don't want to stereotype, but I'm kind of like, you're smart, aren't you? You're smart. Like, I try to look and be like, oh yeah, you're doing that Sudoku. How fast are you doing it? Okay. There's promise there. I see you. So
Tyson.
there's, I can't, I'm going to go with what cards I get dealt. We will see.
Let me throw a couple scenarios your way to finish things off. So you're in the pre-merge, you're around camp, a boat shows up to your tribe and says you all have to pick one person to send on a journey. Who are you
Yes.
picking and why? Are you trying to send yourself? Are you trying to will someone else to go?
I'm going to try and let someone else go. The last couple seasons, which it's really about risking your vote. And I'm sure everybody's got their own thoughts on this, but I started watching, like I said, 2015. I've watched the ones before and after, but that vote is your life. And everybody is like, I gotta risk it. I mean, but why? Just because you've got the chance? I don't understand that logic. Like, well, here's a chance, I gotta risk it. So, but now a lot of it is they're forcing you to. It's like, hey, you've already lost it or this or that. So I don't want to give that up. I think that that's just power in the game. So I would send someone else.
What is your hottest Survivor take? What do you think is your most controversial opinion about a season, a player, the show? What do you think it is?
Oh, that's a good question. I worked really hard in my life not to be controversial. So
Oh, okay.
I haven't thought of that. It could be what I just said, which is, I mean, I feel like there's pressure, take risks, do it. But I'm like, I am taking risks. I'm on this show, but I think the best thing to do is to make it to the end. And I don't agree that you have to take every risk that's thrown at you. So I don't think that makes me a weak player either. I think it makes me a smart player.
100%. Work smarter, not harder when it comes to just hustling.
Small moves. Yeah.
Final thing I want to ask.
Yes.
Give me a celebrity or a fictional character that you would want to bring out as a loved one for a loved one's visit. Who are you picking and why?
Goodness. That's hard. So bring someone with, let me think. So it can be fictional. It's anything.
Could be a celebrity.
Can't bring my real people.
Nope, they gotta stay home. We're keeping them at
Gotta
home.
stay home. So, well, if it's for a family visit and it's, I mean, even with mini celebrities and that, man, I'd stay in Survivor World. I'd bring out Boston Rob if he could come, and I'd be like, man,
Julie.
if it just pretended like we were buddies. I'd be like, yeah, this is like uncle, cousin, I don't care, whatever, Boston Robbie. He's my age, so I didn't mean to insult him. Like, this is, but like, yeah, and I'd be like, dude, tell me what to do here. Yeah, I would probably stay with Survivor World. I mean, get all the advantages you can get, even if it's a fictional question. I'm going with it.
Yeah, listen, and other advantages in the game, yeah, maybe not so much. Advantage in the form of Boston Rob as a family member, go for it. Any chance you get.
Right?
Well,
I appreciate your support on that.
Okay, wow. What a family visit it's going to be when Julie brings out Boston Rob and Austin brings out Coach. Hey,
yeah,
you're a little man, Coach. Get out of here.
We also know that someone on the Yellow Tribe also was a big fan of Amber as well. I believe that was Hannah. So I think she'd certainly go gaga over him as well. I do like Julie trying to pass him off as a family member. That's not exactly the exercise to try to fake it as if they are their family member, almost a reverse claim to fame. But I would love if somehow you have to think about what's the family tree, the gnarled branches that produce both Tennessee Julie and Boston Rob.
I don't know. All right. Julie, I think it's going to be very fun. She wants to align with a strong player. So I think that is going to definitely be something that is in, I think that she's probably going to want to stick with the likes of Austin.
Yeah, or even the next person we might be talking about as well in terms of physical strength, if she's able to make those bonds. I mean, let me be so brazen, Rob. I think 2 outcomes for Julie Alley.
Yeah.
Day 3 or final 3. I think it's got to be the alpha or the omega. As she points out, her demo could have that target on its back. We could get some sort of Rennie Martin-esque sequence where she like is being kooky and drives people up the wall at her camp and they vote her out early. If that's not the case, I absolutely positively see her in that final tribal council.
If I have the choice, day 3 or final 3, I'll say final 3.
Because I think the way she's putting herself forward as well of like, I'm a loyalist. I think she's very much going to come across that way. And I think that might work against her where she might do what Jam Jam or might not do what Jam Jam was considering and like cut someone who she's working very closely with who could beat her in the end. She gets taken to the final 3. And maybe in that aspect, then people look at her and they're like, I don't think it's working for you right now, Julie. Because I think once you hit the merge, I don't see a reason to get rid of her. She's amiable. I think while
hard worker.
And hard worker, I think while her energy might pop in a bit of places, it doesn't feel off-putting whatsoever. And it sounds like she's a good time to have around. And so I and not threatening at all, in my opinion.
And unless she's like a total 0 in the challenges, which I don't get the sense that she is going to be.
She was training for a half marathon when she got rejected from the 43-44 cycle. So like she certainly has it in her, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I feel good about Julie.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's a little tough. I think at the outset, if you're looking at this cast, and I think some people coin this cast as basically like Julie and Bruce and then 16 of their unruly children, essentially, you would say, oh, on the outset, she's the odd one out. But I think she really has that experience of like, while she doesn't want to necessarily present herself as, inauthentic, she does have this ability to at least like hang quite literally with 20 somethings. And I think that's really going to help. I don't think she's going to stick out like a sore thumb early on. And I think that allows her to make some inroads here. I think especially her angle of not taking risks is really interesting because, again, I think this is the other side of the coin with someone like Carolyn, who was all about this really kooky exterior, but underneath she was playing the game hard. I don't think that's the case with Julie. I don't think she is necessarily this wolf in sheep's clothing. She's wool all the way down. I think she is someone who's like, yeah, I don't really need to go to the island. I don't need to look for idols. I don't need to take every risk that's presented to me. And I think that is a smart way of thinking. We saw with people like Chanel, for instance, in 42, that like if you grab at any opportunity presented your way, that could be your folly. I do think it's interesting comparing to her to someone like Jay, who we just spoke about, who is all about like, yes, Survivor's all about risks. And so that's what I want to do in this game. Julie's like, I've taken enough risks in my life. I don't need to do anything more if it's to the detriment of my game. Shows again how much life experience bears out in gameplay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that Julie is somebody who I feel like is more set up in a better spot here to succeed in this tribe. But we have one other puzzle piece to fit in, somebody that I don't know a ton about yet. Mike, can you set up anything about Sifu?
Yes. So this is Nicholas Alsup, but he is going by the nickname Sifu, which is the name of a video game, but I also believe has martial arts connotations as well. Sifu, suffice it to say, he may not like to wear hats because of the delightful faux hawk he is mocking in this moment, but he does from an occupational perspective. He's listed as a gym owner, but he plays in a band as well. He's owned a bar previously. He's worked at Walmart. He has done a lot of things in only 30 years of life prior to demise.
Okay. All right. Let's bring in Mike's conversation with Sifu.
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Having a good time.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you. I'm Mike, representing Parade and RHAP for you today. Let me get your bio line. Who are you? Where are you from?
My name is Sifu, and I'm from O'Fallon, Illinois, like 15 minutes from St. Louis, for reference. I love, I've been doing Tai Chi my whole life and martial arts ever since I was 6 years old. So definitely going to play into this whole game.
Yeah. So I'd love to hear about we talk on Survivor about resume, but like your work resume is so interesting from what I've been reading up, where you are like a musician and then you worked at Walmart and now you're a gym owner. So like very quickly walk me through how you got through all those steps. Because talk about making big moves. You made several from an occupation perspective.
Yeah, from an occupational perspective, quickly, an overview would be all the way from Walmart to
working at a local park that was taking half my check, then owning my own gym. But before that, I actually owned a bar in St. Louis. And then after that, owned my own gym. And then traveling and touring and playing music with artists all over America. So
collaborate
So
with Jay Maya.
Is this like a facet of you, this ability to just like tap into so many things? You seem like a modern day Renaissance man to me.
I try to be. Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, you can't tell by the beautiful, shirt.
You are definitely king of the jungle, I think, when it comes to
Yes.
the impression you're trying to put out there.
You see, you got to play mind games with them.
What
But yeah, I
pecker?
think just all that.
Yes. Okay.
He literally did the thinking man's meme, just like with the post that he hit. I didn't even realize that when I was watching it back. Can someone please crop that and make this the new thinking man's meme?
Yeah. Okay.
Can't lose your vote if you don't risk your vote.
You got to play mind games with them. But yeah, I think just all that, is proof that I'm adaptable and I'm willing to go for what I want. I was always had to fight the adversity of being told you can't do this, or having to fight, not being able to financially afford stuff, or be able to push myself to get to where I wanted to be. But I jumped through those hurdles with every bit of me that was, wanting to fight back and not give up. I used that fuel to make myself better. And here I am playing music and, teaching people and doing the gym life. And that's it. That's all I wanted to do. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
And now we add Survivor player onto that as well. So talk to me about
Right,
how that.
Soul Survivors.
There we go. That'll be the eventual last step of the plan. But talk to me about how we got to this step right now. What made you decide that this would be yet another step in this adventure that you've had?
Yeah, I just think I want to push myself, and I want to make sure that there's no stone left unturned. There's a saying, and I'm going to botch it, but there's a saying that I don't want any ghost next to my deathbed, and it's by Nelson Mandela. And you don't want to say what if. You don't want to say I should have this or that. And when I watched Survivor, I binged it, all 40 seasons of it at the time. I got turned on to it. I was like, this is worth it. This is an adventure of a lifetime that speaks to my soul and everything I want to do in life. To be primitive without food, around these random people you don't know, and to have to challenge yourself in every which way. It just made sense for me. So call me crazy, but
Never. So you, I'm assuming, found this during the pandemic or something, and then decided, oh man, this is awesome, and then just caught up at an alarming rate.
What's odd, and you'll probably laugh at this, is my fiance and I, we actually started at season 40 and we watched Winners at War. And so, yeah, right. So it was really strange because I saw all the winners. And so for me, I told my fiance, I said, wait, hold on. These are all the winners of previous seasons. We've got to go back. So I literally went back, and it made so much sense why they were saying certain things and why they were doing certain things. So I was like, this is amazing.
Wow, it's like walking at the end of a movie and being like, all right, I think I can figure it out from here. So all that being said, I would love to hear from you. Give me one of those Survivor winners, and also give me a non-winner. I would love to hear one of each that you feel you associate yourself with, either from a strategic perspective, personal perspective, whatever.
Tony Vlachos is one of the top ones that I relate to. Just his ferocity in the game, with spy bunkers and his social work. And I just thought that was the season, I think it was 28 Cagayan, where it really made sense to me. Like, man, you could really go out, be yourself, play hard, have a fun time, because it wasn't like he was tippy-toeing. He was literally out there being himself and trying hard, and that made sense to me, resonated well with me. But I think that all in all, the second player for me, this is a tough one because there's a lot. It would be probably Wu. I really enjoyed his play, but next to Wu, it would be either Ben. I know I can only pick two, but it would be Wu, Ben, or no, Ben won. Never mind. Yeah, Ben won his season. So it'd probably just be Wu then. Yeah.
That makes sense from the Tai Chi connection, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So what would
I thought Penn didn't win.
what would you say is one of your favorite moments in Survivor history? Is it around that Tony Wu connection, or is it something else through all those seasons you binged?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. I would say some of the funniest moments, yes, were when Tony was like, "She's speaking llama," you know. Those things stick out to me. You know, the older seasons, you always had more like banter, like behind people's back. I just thought that was so funny and hilarious. And then they turn right to him and just be like, "Yeah, you know, you're really cool," and they would just be talking crap about him. I just think that some of those moments, and then yeah, I would say like challenges, just seeing the evolution of challenges and things like that. I enjoy that all.
So let's talk a bit about your approach to the game. I guess to start, like, what was your prep like? Because it sounds like you are a busy man, and certainly I think the physical component is something that, I don't know, did you need to prepare for it differently than like your usual day-to-day stuff? What other type of stuff were you doing in the months before this?
Yeah, a lot. So I don't know if you can tell, I am about 220 something pounds. I had to fast. Yeah, I'm a pretty big guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to fast, which was terrible because I usually eat like 5-6 meals a day, man. And so, yeah, right. So having to fast was tough. Work out early in the morning, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I would get up, hit the treadmill, hit the stair stepper, and I would burn at least 2,400 calories a day. And so, yeah, people thought I was insane, but they didn't know why, you know, because you can't really say anything. So they're like, Sifu, you've been to the gym like 4 times, you know, today. I'm like, well, you know, just I really am enjoying it. But yeah, I would say I'm enjoying suffering. I would say the sauna. I did that. I did some workouts in the sauna because this heat is incredible out here. So I just tried to replicate what I thought it would be as much as possible.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Well, so that being said, I mean, you talk about the physical presence. Yeah, so let's also talk about the physical presence, past Mike, of Sifu. So this is by far the largest guy in the game. I mean, he gave his stats. And I think that's going to be a major asset early on. I think one of the things that people understandably spoke out against when it came to, again, that disproportionate pre-merge streak of women going is that a lot of these challenges in these small tribes are all about push this heavy box, lift this heavy thing. That's, again, why I feel like if this were a tribe, they would be stacked because you have Sifu and Austin on the same tribe. There's a reason why Caleb put them on different tribes. You know, it's almost a bit disproportionate in that way. The downside is something that will get mentioned in future interviews, something that got mentioned in the Dalton Ross first impressions. Sifu likes to eat. Sifu needs to eat. He talks about usually eating 5 to 6 meals a day. Could we be facing a Jonathan Young situation where he could deplete more quickly than others because that lack of nutrition is going to eat away at him a lot more than other people?
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, the elements take their toll on players in different speeds. And now this could be a tribe where, and we don't know if there could be more reward challenges here in these like 90-minute episodes. And maybe if you win more, you'll eat more. And so that this is a tribe that does have some muscle. So yeah, definitely something that's worth watching.
Yeah, I also find it really funny that throughout these set of interviews, we've gotten people trying to come up with excuses as to why they're doing odd things. Back from Austin doing a 6-day fast and being like, yeah, just for the lulz. Julie saying, yeah, I need a 5-week vacation where I'll come back emaciated. And Sifu being like, yeah, I'd love to go to the gym 4 times a day.
4 times.
This is what I live for.
Okay, let's go back to Sifu.
I thought it would be as much as possible.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Well, so that being said, I mean, you talk about the physical presence and the space you obviously take up. What do you think people are going to perceive you as? How much do you think that plays into it? Is that something you want or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I think people will perceive me as a slight physical threat, but I don't, you know, I don't think it'll be like a physical threat to where it's so dominating. I think it'll just be like, oh, he could probably be very helpful in these certain situations because I'm probably going to help like more of a group idealistic thing happen where we all help and we all pitch in. We're all doing this. So it's not all on me. Right. And I'm also not going to put too much light on me like, hey, you know, I've been doing 24 years of Tai Chi. I'm going to beat all the balance challenges. No, I'm not going to do that because watch me get out there and I'm like falling all over the place because I can't even I just said this, like, so you don't want to put too much of a highlight on yourself before actually getting into it. You just want to go in with some confidence and that, that physical and mental endurance. So.
Yeah. So speaking towards the people that are around you, what characteristics do you seek in an alliance partner? What facets are you seeking out of like an ideal number one or ride or die on the beach?
Yeah, I want to I am seeking honesty in a partner. Someone that's going to be legitimate with letting me know, if my name's coming up or what realistically what their plans are. Like, I kind of want to know what their ideal is. If they could lay it out from their head to me and then I can help articulate that, that's kind of the partner I want, because it's their idea then and it's their plan. But realistically, I'm going to be taking a piece of that and switching it or using that information to sell. So,
yeah. So that being said, as you're looking around the people that are, in Ponderosa alongside you, I mean, these are going to be either your best friends or your worst enemies for hopefully the next 26 days. Are you eyeballing particular people based on first impressions of either, okay, if I draw the same buff as this person, fantastic, I'm going to the end with them, or even the opposite, major red flags from this person, I'm writing their name down as soon as I can?
The energy is actually quite positive here at Ponderosa. I don't think there's anyone highlighted so far. There's a couple people that have been giving me the eyebrows and the eyes. You don't really know what that means, but there is positive energy from a few people that I've met. And so I think it's going to be an exhilarating season in that regard, that it's a lot of people with a lot of different, good energy. No one seems so negative, which they may whenever they're starving after like 48 hours. But we'll get to that point. But I think it's all good.
Give me your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite, your biggest weakness in life, and how that might translate to the game.
My biggest superpower in life would probably be helping others. The ability to be empathic and sense, to love and care, and to give back to the community.
Okay.
My kryptonite would also be that same thing.
Oh.
I would definitely want to do that. And these are real people. It's not like fake people. You can say it's a game all you want, but you're next to human beings that have hearts, souls, families, and everything. And that's that's where this game gets tough, because you realistically are dealing with a person that is struggling, if not more than you, and needs that nourishment and doesn't have that, safe space they're used to at home. So I have to walk that fine line of, I'm not really going to give up any rewards, but you kind of feel like you want to for someone suffering. You got to walk that fine line of being human and playing the game out here. And I think that'll be my kryptonite and my superpower.
Woodpecker. So I'm going to present this is my biggest red flag, perhaps under the same beach with the red flag with Sifu. I mean, one of two things. One is that, again, as much as he might be trying to not present the 2+ decades of experience in martial arts that he has to probably kill all of these endurance challenges.
Yes.
This idea that he even talks about in his bio, a reason why he wants to play Survivor is, I also want to have a massive impact on the world with all the programs and outreach I do, whether it's for kids I work with, for autism, or my mentorship program helping underprivileged kids. Sifu just seems like a really nice guy. He has a 1,000-watt smile. He seems so friendly, which is why it's so intriguing to me that he's like, oh, the winner I most closely associate with is Tony, because I do not see that in him. He seems like somebody, at least in this moment, that as he's just expressing, I think would have a tough time making a cutthroat move. I know we're saying that of a few people on this tribe. This might be the Kumbaya tribe as opposed to the Holy Crapaya tribe that we talked about last time. But I do feel like Sifu might be somebody that would struggle with doing something to hurt someone else, just because of how much that reflects back on himself outside of the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. That does seem like a little bit of a contradiction in terms of wanting to play like a Tony and all the things that he loved that Tony was doing, and then also the way that he feels about like the work he wants to do outside of the game. So it'll be interesting to see, how he wrestles with those two ideas.
Yeah, okay. I agree. So TBD, like he said, who knows when starvation takes effect for the opposition, let alone him. But I don't know. Would he be the Heidi being willing to vote out Danny at the Applebee's Summit? I'm not entirely sure.
Human and playing the game out here, and I think that'll be my kryptonite and my superpower.
So I'm going to present a scenario to you. Let's say pre-merge, you're with your tribe, hanging out on the beach, being that generous person you talked about. A boat shows up, says pick one person to go on a journey. Now, you know what these journeys might do. Might be something good, might be something bad. Are you volunteering? Are you trying to like get someone else to go? What's your strategy for that?
Yeah, I honestly, I would try to use as much psychology as possible that I could to make it seem to where they naturally would want to pick me, because
and that's the Tony answer.
Scenarios typically they are going out and getting advantages or going on a journey and getting some sort of twist for the game. I want to be on that survivor twist, so I think I would present it in a way to where it's like, I don't know what is going to happen, everybody, but I would be willing to volunteer for this. If not, someone else can go. And with that being said, whoever else would present it, I would just say, well, how about you and we figure this out with rocks, or, I'll go this time, you go next time. I'll be kind of very forward with it.
How much are you looking to look for advantages in the game? Is this something that you're trying to hang your game on, or are you going to try to be that guy that's, again, hanging around camp, providing more so than searching?
No, man, I'm going to be searching. But again, I'm not going to be the guy that says, hey, I'm going to get wood and I bring 3 sticks back. Like, it's like I'm going to bring a bundle back, but there's going to be a damn idol in that bundle. You know what I mean? Like, every adventure out there, whether it's camp life, or getting water at the well, like, I'm going to take each opportunity to search for an advantage. Why not? Your own survivor. It's one of my survivor bucket lists right there to find an, immunity idol. So
what is your hottest survivor take? What do you think is your most controversial opinion about the game, about a player, etc.?
I think that, and this could be an unpopular opinion, but I think the new era of Survivor is the best version of Survivor. And I only say that because it's more inclusive. It's more tangible. Like, you can relate to people better. You're understanding more stories. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but you got to realize there's so many years of the old Survivor to where it's going to be very difficult to see it. But I see it as a new way to re-immerse this game into the world to where people can really relate to it, and it can become more popular again and get back out there in the world. So.
All right, last question. If you could pick a celebrity or a fictional character as your loved one, who would it be and why, to come out and visit you on the beach?
Oh, my fiance would hate this. So if I could pick a fictional character or a celebrity. Oh, Lord. Well, the celebrity would be Jessica Alba.
Okay.
Well, now I understand the preface. Yeah.
And then the fictional character, oddly enough, would be like Goku, or like.
I was gonna say I saw you were a big DBZ fan, so I was just waiting for the
Goku like
drop.
Goku, or or something, like Piccolo or Trunks, one of those guys. That way they can just help me out.
Oh yeah, Trunks comes in with just that big katana that he used to cut Frieza's dad in half, and like, there you go, just cut a swath in the game. That's all you need.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something that people don't know about me, is I'm a DBZ fan like crazy, like all the way from Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Superhero, all of them, every bit of them.
Well, hoping you go, full Super Saiyan 4 by the end of this, that you got blue hair by the time the 26 days are over. It was so great getting to talk with you, man. Get your perspective into everything. I think you have a really great head for where things are at, and I'm hoping you keep it by the time the game is over. So I wish you the best of luck, man. I really look forward to seeing what transpires several months from now.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're talking to the new winner of Survivor. I appreciate you doing this for me, and I cannot wait.
All right, there you go. There's Sifu.
Yeah, so
right.
Drew measures life, in stages of job, family, old age, demise, and Sifu measures it Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4. It's a 6 eggs in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Damn.
Okay. Do you want to try to put all the puzzle pieces together, or you have
Yeah.
anything else on Sifu?
Well, let me bring in actually a puzzle piece that you and I pontificated on back during our initial first impressions podcast, because as was talked about in his bio and in his 1 minute video, Sifu is a world champion in push hands. I did do some research.
Oh.
This is a thing.
Okay.
So
what is it?
Well, it actually is a martial arts type of competition where you stand in one spot next to a person, and it's all about like trying to push each other over, essentially. So it's all about this idea of
Mhm.
give and take, of anticipating someone's move really close up to you. And so that reactionary timing, I think actually that is maybe one of the most valuable skills low key you can have, even besides like balance, strength, endurance, etc., is like being able to recover quickly. Obviously plays very much in the physical aspect, but also I would imagine like the mental aspect, right? The strategic aspect of it.
Mhm.
Also, something that should be mentioned, something that didn't pop up at all in the other personal stuff he talked about. In his 1 minute video, Sifu was adopted. And a year and a half ago, he took an ancestry test. Turns out he's 100% related to his biological family. And he ended up reconnecting with them and finding this entire other side of his life. And I just get, again, I know I keep saying this, but such a warmth out of Sifu. Like his smile, his laugh, that could light me up for days. The question is, will his light go out depending on nutritional resources, betraying somebody, and leading to his actual light going out in the form of his torch?
Yeah, I can see potentially him like betraying the trust of the group and being a little bit shifty with the idols and like how he wants to, play a Tony-esque game. For me, I kind of feel like that. I think that right off the bat, I feel like that Austin and Julie, I feel like are going to be the duo there. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
that
think
they're going to be tight.
Yeah, I think Austin is going to be, much like we talked about with Sabaya, I think Austin is going to be the hub of this group. I
Yeah.
think he's going to have Julie. I think he's going to have Dee, whether it be platonic or romantic. She was talking about eyeing him. I know Drew was as well. If they make that brain brawn connection, that could be the case as well. I
Yeah.
think he and Sifu could also look out for each other as like physical presences.
Dee was saying that she wanted The Rock to come and be with, maybe Sifu could fulfill that part of her wish so that he could, as close as we're getting to The Rock on this season.
Yeah, honestly, from what I see, again, my probably wrong predictions about this tribe, if they were a tribe, is that I could see them going the way of Baka, where like if they lose one of the first couple challenges, they don't go back for the rest of the pre-merge, because again, they have a really good lineup. You've got two of the strongest people in the game physically with Sifu, with Austin. You could have Drew, J Maya, Julie, some combination of them on the puzzles. Dee is very strong as well. So it feels like they're very well spread when it comes to skills. I think if and when they do go to Tribal Council in the pre-merge, I think they cast out one of Drew or Jay.
Yeah.
I think one of them sort of falls into this hole of like, well, both of them are not the best challenge performers. We got to take one along. I think honestly, pick the day, pick the relationships that they made, whether it's Drew trying to bond with Austin, whether it's Jay trying to bond with Dee. I think that's when it's going to bear out. But I would imagine we're going to see a fair amount of these people in the merge situation. Now, from then on, I'm not entirely sure because they're going to have people, again, like Austin and Sifu, who will have a lot of eyes on them. Someone like Drew might have a lot of eyes on him differently. I am intrigued, Rob, because Austin and Sifu, two guys, both physical presences, both guys also admitted they might have a tough time betraying people and cutting loose these relationships. Who do you have more stock in to make it further?
Out of Sifu and Michael?
On Austin.
Sifu and Austin, I think I have a little bit more faith in Austin. That I think that Austin, is coming across as a little bit more. I think maybe he might be a little bit more. I don't know how old is Sifu.
Sifu's 30.
30. Like I think that people might look at Austin as like a little bit more of just like a nice younger guy. I wonder also with Sifu, you talked about that, like could he be getting so hungry that could be somebody who like we've seen this with many other survivors in the past where okay, now they're getting hungry. Does he get agitated at all from being somebody who is like a bigger guy who's not being fed on Survivor? So I think I have more faith in Austin just because I feel like that Austin is going to have Julie.
Yeah, I also think Austin is masking something. He talks about, again, going to business school. He clearly has an acumen that he can hide behind the beach bod and the beach hair. Sifu, I think, is a little more what you see is what you get. I know that he loves to play like Tony and says he's going to be very advantage hungry, if not regular hungry. Speaking of which, though, I'll bring up these two guys again because I think we have our answer to in this premiere when the boat shows up and asks who wants to go on a journey. Now, we talked with our last group about how nobody's going to want to volunteer, basically. I think here we're going to see a jockeying between these two guys to see who wants to go.
Yeah, Austin wants to go, he said.
Yeah, remember Austin was the guy that said he wanted to get an advantage early on when he felt the most safe.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Sifu is the guy trying to do like the mind effing of like, I'm going to make you feel like you want me to go.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see, assuming that that's a part of season 45. I mean, I guess we have no reason to believe that it won't be, but that I do think that they may say at some point, like, are we going to do everything exactly the same every single season from here on out forever?
Yeah, I mean, one would hope. I think no matter what, if things are working or not working, it's always just good in your life to take a look and be like, okay, things have worked for me in the past, but is everything working for me right now?
Okay. Mike, anything else you want to say about this group of players on the Red Tribe?
Again, I think this is one of the most positively infused groups, I would say. I think maybe Drew is like the least positive part of it. And even then, I feel like he is more of like a snark than he is an outright comparison to some of the other people that came before him in these interviews. So I think this should be a pretty interesting group if and when they go to tribal council. But I would say by and large, I would not be surprised if like this ends up being the most harmonious tribe of the three.
Yeah, this is a really strong cast so far. I've had a lot of fun going through this today with you and Mike. Great job with all of your questions and getting so much out of these people. I feel like I really know them before we've even gotten to the show starting.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you to this group as well. Again, I only fed off of the energy that they were giving me. They were giving me 2,400 calories a day of what they were bringing. And again, I hope it's infectious. It seems like it is. And that's the only thing that's infectious, hopefully. And we've got one more group to go, Rob, and they're another great one. So I'm excited to round out this group and talk through perhaps then fleshing out where we think the pieces might fall even after the pre-merge.
Okay, so if you missed our Tribe 1 preview, you can go back and check that out, and we will have our third and final Tribe preview coming in just a couple of days. Mike, what else are you working on these days?
Well, first off, I am on Cameo. I'll keep on plugging it at a Mike Bloom type there. I will do anything and everything for money.
Wow.
Listen, I may be a reformed man whore, but drop the man, keep the whore, I suppose, as I will be doing any sort of requests that you might send. And I'm super grateful for all those of you who, for some reason, have wanted my opinion and my video submissions so far. Outside of that, I am posting these interviews as well in written form over at parade.com. By the time this is being released, I'll probably be about halfway through this group, and I actually will have fully posted the next group that we are talking about, the final group. So if you want a bit of a sneak peek without our commentary as to who those remaining 6 people are, check that out. And then I'll also get into the remaining 6 people as well that were the first 6 that we talked about, all at parade.com, as well as Exit Press for Big Brother and the challenge, and then all the stuff happening at post-show recaps, again, at a Mike Bloom type.
All right, Mike, so much fun going through this with you. Looking forward to the next one. If you're not yet subscribed to all of this, make sure you either hit that subscribe button on YouTube or go to robbinswebsite.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.